And it's recording now. Excellent. Wow, wonderful.
Good job, man. Do they make motorized tripods?
I think they do. I just have to look into it.
Let me use your bathroom so I can get a little more comfortable while I'm
Sure.
sitting.
So
here.
I'm gonna put it on pause.
So jumping.
Today's a Saturday, March 9th, 2013. Okay, great.
Okay, what we're doing, we're sitting here today in our usually bi-weekly meeting. Today's session will deal with a review, a critical analysis, or constructive criticism of the material that was presented in the session that we did a couple of weeks ago. The topic of discussion was the Quranic concept of ritual salat. So we presented that segment dealing with what we understood ritual salah, how it could not be predicated upon the Quran, that the Quran does not sustain any evidence, any argument to support the 5-time-a-day ritual salah. So we presented that material last week. What we want to do today is have an open discussion regarding that material. Maybe some of us saw some inconsistencies in what was presented. Maybe we saw things that could have been presented in a better manner than they were. Whatever it is, we want to have an open and frank discussion about that, to add something to it however we like. That's the first half of our sitting today. The second half will be our good brother here, Shafiq, will present some discussion that he sees of importance as a second segment of today's discussion. Okay, so we're open to begin our discussion. Anybody can start with whatever observations they have regarding the topic of discussion. Does the Quran towards the Quranic understanding of Salah? So let's go. Anybody?
For me, I thought it was very crystal and clear. As far as discrepancies with the ritual salah, my only statement I want to bring is there more discrepancies that we could bring to light?
Well, that's a question. You see, that's a question. I'm sure there's many discrepancies. That's a question. We want to deal with the material that we had. You see, what is it that you can you add anything to the subject matter that we presented last week? Do you see any defect in something that was said? You've had a little time now, a couple of weeks to look at it. Well, maybe this is not correct what you said here, or I didn't quite understand this point, or you could have added to that point that you made this year, perhaps. Would that have been proper to have done? Whatever, you see. Not, are there more discrepancies? I'm sure there's more discrepancies. Perhaps we just don't know them, you see. But we said one hole in the balloon sustains the argument. If one of those points stand, then the whole ritual is gone. We don't need more. You see, how many times they shot the guy? They shot him 10 times. Could they have shot him more? You know, could they have shot him more times? Yeah. All they have to do is reload the clip and keep shooting.
Right.
Tariq?
Well, I think that I don't have anything to critique about it. The point that Hamza just made, that the 5 points that he gave us, either one invalidates that ritual prayer. So, like I said, are there more? There could be more, but the way it was presented by Hamza was very clear. The ayats were very clear in terms of being able to bring the ball hand and evidence to anybody that would say, well, okay, you know, why is that your position, that this prayer is not valid? It was, to me, it was a superb, usually it was just a superb presentation. I don't really have a critique for that. It was good, you see. I mean, when you gave us the think it's 17:110, if I'm quoting that ayat right, where the prayer can't be done silently. Well, their sunnahs, their witters, their third and fourth rakats, these are done silently. You see, so that's right there in opposition to what Allah has commanded, that it be done with a mid-course. You see, so for me, if I didn't get anything else out of it, that I got that one, for me is huge. You see, so my only critique was that it was just a job well done, Hamza.
Yeah, well, is there anything that you could have suggested as some other evidence as well to show why it could not have been a ritual?
You know, if I could have, when you get the other four, I mean that it can be recited back to Allah, the Allahu Akbar. The other one you gave, I'm sorry, my memory's low. The guidance had already come, so why are you asking for guidance again? And it doesn't what they're doing doesn't make impossible indecencies and evil deeds. So I think it was just a tremendous presentation. All five of those are rock solid arguments against any ritual prayer. So if there's more, I can't figure it out.
I think a great point that was mentioned was that the only guidance is the guidance of Allah, and you know it will be incorrect to go to the Prophet for guidance if the Prophet have received his guidance from Allah.
Well, now we're talking about guidance here, I think.
Yeah, that wasn't the topic
right.
discussion. Yes.
You know, when it came to the guidance, people are asking 5 times a day for guidance.
Yeah.
When Allah, when the ayah said that guidance, it was, if I remember the ayat, matter of fact, I recall that I'm not been 6:162, that the guidance had already come in past tense. So why are you asking for guidance again? You see, that's the main point. Going back to the Fatiha, they asked for guidance and it was given now.
Right.
So why are you going back 5 times a day, you know, or more, asking for guidance? So that's another rock solid argument against that, brother. See? Was that clear, Imran?
You know, I absolutely think that I have a limited knowledge compared to you guys, and however, I do take notes, and one of the things that I do regret, I didn't have the opportunity to completely look into it, but when I go back, there are a couple of things that always confuse me, and I do have some of the notes that I actually created past, not from our 2 weeks ago of discussion. Like I was reading one of the ayah in Quran. Is actually Surah 4, I guess number 4, and chapter 4, and ayat number 43. Okay. And it talks about that, it gives a detail of, I guess if I pronounce right, ablutions, like to do wudu. I didn't understand that portion. Why is it talking about that?
I just want to make one correction for the film that I quoted ayat 162 about the guided. In this particular Quran, where it's structured, is actually 161. Say, as for me, my Lord has guided me to the right path. So I'll make that question for the tape. It might be different in another person's Quran.
So that's one section that I saw talks about doing a wudu. And
Excuse me, what verse was that? You said 443?
443.
I believe so, yes. And I may have a little wrong, but I'm going to go back. I have another place I saw somewhere.
Isn't 443 about the intoxicants? It's not about wudu.
Go not to make prayer when you're intoxicated until you know what you say.
Right.
Yeah. So it talks about
Not after sexual
yeah.
intercourse, except you're merely passing by until you have bathed. Yeah.
Yes, but okay, yes.
Yeah.
So what is that when it comes to Salat? And then I saw somewhere I have another one, which is 5 or 6, I guess.
Well, let's just deal with one at a time, perhaps.
Please.
Anybody want to help him out with this verse? 443. What is your concern about it?
Right, so.
Well, I have sorts of notes that I was actually writing down, but why does cleansing is talk about? What is it related to? I'm thinking as far as for related to Salah.
Mm-hmm.
When you perform Salah, you have to be clean. or is it something else that I misunderstood? And again, I have very limited knowledge. I just wanted to have a little understanding, and my notes could be distorted. Okay, feel free to comments if you think that I need to correct them.
Anybody want to help them out with any understanding regarding this verse?
Are you in this verse? You talking about specifically about the sexual intercourse and the bathing, or are you talking about the whole verse? Is there a particular thing you're taking out the verse? Like you said, it says, "Nor after sexual intercourse, except you are merely passing by until you have bathed."
Let me actually look into another one. Maybe I might have cross-referenced.
Well, let's just look at this verse. You don't want to deal with this verse?
Well, I was talking about cleaning, but he's saying about the woman. I was only in my mind when I was reading it. I had something about the Salat.
No, it talks about until you have bathed. So that's cleaning. That's
Right. It's the salah and the clean.
Yeah.
The cleanliness.
Oh, okay. So, going back to the question, why do we, if Salah, is not a ritual prayer, what is this bathing that comes into play, this word? That's what I was trying to say.
Well, from what I see here, in terms just on surface, when it says, it says, "Oh, you who believe, go not near prayer when you are intoxicated till you know what you say."
Yes.
Okay, so that's one aspect, of your observance of duty. If you're intoxicated, you're usually babbling. We've seen intoxicated people. You're usually babbling, and you're not really focused on your situation or your duties, because you may be slack. And then it goes on to say another prerequisite would be the sexual intercourse. It says when you're doing your the sexual intercourse, it's talking about bathing, and we all know the hygienic situation, because sometimes maybe your observance of duty has to do with interaction between people, and I mean you don't want to come,
No, as far as I know, that drinking it's haram totally anyway. So when this verse talks about when you actually need prayer, do not be drunken. I know that drinking overall, it's not, as far as I know, not permitted. I could be wrong. So why in this sentence?
This ayat probably comes under what Salah is, so which we haven't gotten to yet. That's going to be our next discussion.
Oh, okay.
So this probably would come under once to know what Salah is. This might be at that point illuminated for us.
Okay.
We're dealing with what Salah is not, and that's Hamza wants to go into it, but
Okay.
that might come under what Salah is. That will give us the answer to that question.
Yeah, well, to answer your question about prayer when you are intoxicated till you know what you say.
Why the bathing is there? I mean, if
Well,
it's
you
not like
see,
something else.
it's two things. It's two things there. It's talking about intoxication and it's talking about sexual intercourse.
Until you bathe, but
Right.
what is a bathe?
In terms as approaching
Well, it's
your
also
salah.
about being sick or on journey too.
Right,
Coming
exactly.
from the bathrooms. It's
Exactly.
touching on a number of things here
Right.
in this ayah.
But
You know.
Salat is what I understand from Brother Hamza. It's more about duties, if I understand, and correct me. Okay, pretty much living your way of your life. What does it have to do with taking bath? That's part of a normal thing too.
But you're asking a bunch of things at one time. First, you're asking about intoxicants. You said your understanding of intoxicants was haram. Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
You're talking about sexual intercourse. Like I was saying in the beginning, these would prerequisites be correct in terms of in terms of when you're engaged in your salah. So I think first your understanding of salah has to be there first. What is salah? What is the
Right.
concept of salah
That's what I'm
first?
thinking
That's,
it is, what
that's
it
the
is.
first thing. Then once you understand your Quranic concept of salah, then you can move on to these things and have a better understanding of them.
Is that right, Brother Hamza? I should hold off on this.
Well, maybe you can satisfy him, give him some understanding, then give him the understanding of the verse.
Well,
Let's use the ayat then with the birds in flight. Because that each knows its own salah, You see, so
But the birds ain't having sexual intercourse.
no, but
They
I'm just
don't
saying,
have to do all that.
but we get an idea of what their assigned duties are. You see, so if Salah is assigned duty,
He
well,
wants to know
saying,
about this particular
well, I'm
bird
saying,
species,
we're giving what assigned. If Salah is assigned duty,
Yeah.
well then Allah saying you're assigned duty here. When you come out of privy, when you come out of intercourse, you know, you have to then be clean. Okay, that's a duty to be clean. You see, so it's an assignment to be clean. And if you're intoxicated, well, how are you going to attend your assigned duties if your judgment is clouded? So, at least in that sense, you might get understanding that these are duties and they have to be performed in a certain way, or addressed as a duty. Is that all helpful, man?
Well, then the surah that I gave you, if I go, I know that we're talking about strictly to surah number 4, but then I looked into Surah Al-Ma'idah, which is 5/6. It just says, "Oh, you believe." What I'm reading, when you raise up for prayer, wash your faces and your hands up to the elbow. Okay, and lightly rub your heads and wash and feet up to the ankles. Now, what is that in reference to?
Okay, like I said before, first to understand these things, you have to solidify your understanding of Salah, exactly what Salah is. And if you have assigned duties or duties that you have, as social beings, we interact with everybody. We interact. So when you're interacting with people, you know, just common sense, you know, to approach somebody. I mean, we've all been in a situation where a person's body odor has been offensive, or his oral situation has been offensive and stuff like that. So these are injunctions of hygienic cleanliness.
Commands.
You know, commands of cleanliness.
Well,
Why not just use the word being clean? Hygienic, simple as that is. I mean,
Well, that goes into the.
this one's specifically describing the step. You know, wash your faces and your hands up to the elbows and make mash. Okay, and it's in bracket, wiping by hands of your heads and your feet to the ankle. So what is that? I mean, it's a lot easier because I read in the same surah, Allah talks about forbidden things. Okay, He doesn't list all the things that you shouldn't be eating.
Right,
You should be actually eating. He just lists the things that you should be avoiding. Okay, and that's about it. Here it gives more description. Again,
right, but is that description based on a preconceived notion of wudu? Because I did hear you mention wudu.
Yeah.
Or is it based on a hygienic, just an overall cleansing?
I don't know.
I mean, certain things are implied when you talk about washing your face. Okay, because he didn't say ears there. He didn't say neck. You understand? He didn't say private parts. But that's all has to do with cleanliness, hygienic.
We know from last week what Salah is not, right?
Exactly.
We know this can't be, which really can't be a ritual. It's for some other purpose,
Yeah,
right?
no, my point would be is if I have someone else who doesn't have the concept, and I don't too, truly, concept of Salah, should I tell that person, wait till you understand the Salah, then I'm going to tell you? Okay, is that the right answer? First you understand the meaning of Salah.
Yeah, that would be the right answer,
Well,
especially in this case here with myself.
Okay.
I'm still working through it to get it down to its nit, to its science. So I would say in order to get a sounder meaning of these questions that you're answering, you would have to go to somebody that is more apt to answer you in that respect.
That's next week then, when we hear what
So,
Salah is
I
then.
think the point is we have to stop because first we have to understand the concept.
What Salah is.
Yeah.
Of Salah, you
Right,
know,
so I said earlier.
and then like when you talk about the intoxication, you know, you have to understand actually, that falls into the realm of lawful and unlawful. Or so when you made the statement about certain things, you said drinking is haram.
Forbidden.
You made that statement.
I didn't say haram.
You said forbidden.
Yes.
So haram can mean either forbidden or what is sanctioned. It can mean either one.
What's approved?
Or what's approved.
When I looked into the definition of haram is more related, I believe, more like a material as far as eating, not drinking.
But you have to remember.
Yeah.
You have to remember now.
Yeah.
It's not. We're dealing with Quran alone. So if you want the understanding of certain words,
Yeah.
you have to see how Allah uses these words in the Quran.
Sure.
Right?
So does he say
Because there's certain places in the Quran.
So drinking is haram?
No,
There's certain places in the Quran where Allah speaks about haram, where it actually speaks about something being forbidden. And then there's also places in the Quran where Allah speaks about haram, where it talks about dealing with your parents. You know, in terms of, I can't pull that. Do you know that verse offhand where it speaks about parents in the haram situation, Tariq? I don't know the verse offhand. That speaks about dealing with your parents.
When I think about haram, I think about 733. Law makes haram evil deeds.
Right.
Where there is haram. You know.
Right, but there's.
What does this got to do with the verse the brother's asking about? Nobody wants to address the verse, or what? What is all the wrangling about this and that?
Because he's
Brother
going
wants to
from one
ask
question
about-
to the next question.
Yeah, but that don't mean you have to do it. You want
Right.
to, you want to deal with his question here with 443. He seems to think that maybe this might be signifying some kind of ritual prayer that you have to prepare
Well, that's what I
yourself to
said
do
earlier.
it,
We said,
you see?
but from last week, we determined that this salah cannot be a ritual
So,
prayer.
Well, that's what you said, but then you have to address this verse in that context and show how this verse agrees with what you said last week.
Well, that's why I said let's defer till next time when we have the
Well, maybe
discussion
you
about
might
what
want to do, maybe you
what
might
salah
want to do that.
is.
You might want to do that. Maybe I can sit here and satisfy him right now.
It's your show.
You see?
It's your
I'm
floor.
saying, but if you can't, so I'm saying, why take him on all this journey? You understand, with a lot of other things, you know, because it's just making the matter complicated more.
Right,
So,
I
well,
agree.
brother, you know, you told me, he said, well, look, you know, go through the backyard and go around here. I said, no, but you told me before that you can't go there. I'm saying, well, go around that way and then you can still get there. I'm saying, address the issue right here before you. With your knowledge of what Salah is, address his question.
Thank you.
You see, with your knowledge of what Salah is, address this question right here.
He had several
Don't wait
questions.
for him to have. No, he
You
had
want to
one question right
address the
here.
verse.
No, he had one question right here. He talked about cleaning. You brought in all the other things.
Oh, you
and-
talked about intoxication also.
No. You brought
He
that
knows
up.
that
You brought that up for him.
Oh, he.
And-
Well,
no,
we
you
can
brought
rerun
it
the
up.
tape, and we can see where the brother said
no.
that I know that drinking is haram.
Yeah, but he didn't bring. That was a sidebar to this here. He's not making an issue out of this here.
Right.
He
That's
didn't
sort of a
bring that up. He
yes.
just brought that up as a sidebar. You had jumped on that sidebar. His issue is about why is it necessary to have to be washing, you see, and then he's want to associate that with the other verse where it talks about washing necks and hands and all that. So this is a washing. This is something that you're preparing to do this, and he, in his mind, he sees this ritual wudu that you have to do. How do you understand that? Take that picture away from him and put it with what you said last week, that this has got nothing to do with this ritual. This is all he's asking you to do.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
I thought I made that point that that we know from last week that salah is not a ritual, right? That was clear, right? Was that clear to you last week? That whole discussion there for 3 hours. That's what salah is not. Why it can't be a ritual. He gave us 5 things why this thing we call salah cannot be a ritual. Was that all clear to you at all, Imran?
No, like I said, I didn't have the opportunity to completely review because normally what I do is I go.
No, that I got. But I'm saying when you were sitting here,
Yeah.
when he, for example, said that 110 that you can't do your salah silently, right?
Yeah.
So did that for you at all eliminate salah being a ritual prayer? Because the rituals that they do, they have silent parts in their salah.
See, the point is, even if it did, he still wants to know about this now. This is confusing him still. So how do you equate that? How can you, since you know what it is, make him understand that this is not what he's thinking it is? You already know what Salah is. So you tell him now, brother, with my knowledge of Salah, this verse here is talking about X, and he says, oh, now I see. I get the point. You see, don't make him have to wait to find out what you took 4 years to learn. What's the law? What's the law is over all that studying. Don't make him have to wait that long to understand this, or wait for you to come with something next week. You already know. So tell him in the context of what you know, what this is referring to.
Well, my best understanding of that ayat then, Imran, is that salah is to turn towards something, to be committed, to follow closely. In a phrase, to be committed to your assigned duties. It's salah commands. So these are injunctions that your assigned duties, what you have to follow closely, is to obey these commands here. You see, that do not approach your commitments, your duties, if you're intoxicated. If you come from certain things like sex, bathroom, then you have to wash properly. Just commands to be followed, to be committed, to follow closely. That's my best thing that I can render to you. My thing of salah.
And plus, at
Right
the end of the verse, Allah also says, Allah doth not wish to place you in difficulty, but to make you clean, and to complete His favor to you, that you may be grateful. So to answer your question of why it does it, well, I kind of told you at the end of the verse.
You see, here's what's going on. You see, when you read, what you're going to find out is that to understand what salah is, you have to read salah throughout the whole of the Quran. Once you read about salah throughout the whole of the Quran, you'll get a broader picture of what salah is. This is why last week when I was presenting the argument, I said suspend your notion about what you think salah is and just start from scratch. So I talked about the birds. When I talked about the birds, had you never understood salah before, like a person is walking off the street, you wouldn't get an idea that, you see what this, I showed you a picture of some people praying, you wouldn't think that that was about that. You wouldn't equate that there, you see. Your mind would say, what you just said don't seem like that thing that they're doing there. So when you get the broader picture, so one of the pictures you're going to get is that the prophet himself was the one who had the message to convey to people. He was the one who was to call the people to the salah, like on the day of Jummah. The day of Jummah, like chapter 62, verse 9. Oh people, when the call is called for the salah, come to the salah. So this is part of coming to the salah. You see, on the day that a gathering. So Allah has given you simple basic rules of hygiene and ethical conduct on how to come to this gathering. Because what are you coming for? You're coming to hear the Quran being recited. You're coming to hear the Quran and being recited, and you have to take these instructions and do it. So let's look at it word by word. It says, "O you who believe, O you who are trying to achieve belief, don't go near the salah when you are drunk." Not when you've been drinking. That's not the Arabic word for drinking. It's the Arabic word for drunk. You see, when you are drunk, until you sober up and know what you're saying. Let's say if your person has been drinking a little bit and he's not drunk, it doesn't stop him from coming. You see, the person who's drunk until he knows what he says. Now, so two things happen here now. That means now that you have to understand what's being said. Because the instructions, the salah is commanding you things. Oh, Shuaib, does your salah command us? Command us. If you can't understand the commands, what is it? Here's a person standing here drunk. You said, don't walk over there, don't touch that. You don't know what you're talking about. He's drunk and he's falling on into the places. Oh, the guy's drunk. Oh, the guy's crazy. He's insane. Or it's a child. They don't know what you're saying to them. Stop him. He's the child. He doesn't know. So you have to be in control of your intellect. So now another thing happens is that this was during the time of the prophet, which was Arabic being spoken. Arabic. So to know what being said, you'd have to know the Arabic language. So that applies to you right today. The guy's reciting Arabic and you don't know Arabic, you can't come to that salah. It's got nothing to do with you. You don't know what's being said. Everybody's standing here speaking different languages. If they don't speak Arabic, and the guy's reciting the Quran in Arabic, you don't know what's being said, so you can't come to that salah. That salah, that gathering, is not for you. You have to go to the gathering where the language is spoken that you know. He says, well, brother, like they used to do, they give 2 khutbahs, one in Arabic and one in English. You ever seen them do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the people who don't speak Arabic, we're going to give you another cooked bar and some watered down version. So first of all, it says when you're intoxicated, because the Arabs used to drink. They used to drink and be stupefied and drunk. And they would just be bumbling around and doing that. And then they were desert Arabs and all that shit, herding goat and sheep and all that, smelling and stinking. And imagine somebody can't come, this brother right here will tell you, look, if you got on perfumes, I can't stay in the room. You see, allegedly. Imagine somebody with a bunch of pagan Arabs, desert Arabs, and we come in here stinking from herding cows and goats all week and all month. And that's a brother I'm having gathered at my house, and you come walking in and say, wow, the guy, what in the world is that? Nobody can't sit in a room with all that. Y'all gathered in here in the hot desert smelling like that. So I'll tell you, don't come when you're drunk till you know what you said. Or if you had sex, you can imagine having sex all day long, everybody, and you ain't bathed. Can you imagine that smell? You've been having sex all day long and you ain't bathed? Out in the desert somewhere and you ain't bathed and you want to come somewhere and the guys are going to be talking about what God says and all that and you smell and stink. Say, wait, what in the world is going on? Wait a minute, hold on. We can't focus. This guy's smelling like this here. So these are basic rules of hygiene. This is going to be part we talk about when the people say there's no details for Salat in the Quran. These are details for the Quranic concept of Salat. These are part of the details. You see?
But Brother Hamza, you're saying that when Muhammad called for Salat,
yeah, when he called the people to the congregation for the Salat.
Congregation.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's Jummah, on Jummah.
Gotcha.
You see, Salat is never about one person. There's no instruction in the Quran for one person to do any Salat.
Call for the duties.
You see, the Quran has to recite it and somebody has to listen to it. That requires at least 2 or more people. There's no Salat for one person ever in the Quran.
So just like you're saying that having a hygiene, using that word, won't that be better? Because
well, this is the word Allah chose to use. I don't know if you got a better word.
no,
It says until you're clean.
that perfect. That
Yeah.
fits here perfect. Absolutely.
And after sex, because now Allah's use it says after sex, not until you don't come until it says hatta. That's until. That's a time until. Once this is satisfied, then you can come. Don't come until you know what you said. Until you know what you said. You've been drinking, you're drunk. Now go over there and sober up, and then you can come. Not because you drink and you can't come. Brother, you can't come here if you drink. You drink? You're a drinker? No, you can't come here. No. It says until you know what you say. You see, it's not the Arabic word for drunk, drinking. It's the Arabic word for drunk. You see, so we can deal with that later on if you have to deal with that. Like what you just said now, we can blow that mess away later on. We'll put that on a hold or blow away later on. Hold for that. This is what your brother wants to get you with. We'll get you with that later. We'll straighten that out.
Thank
Now,
you.
nor after sexual intercourse, except you just passing by. If you're not there, if you're not coming there to listen to this lecture, you just have to be passing by on the route. So what they doing, that brothers reciting the Quran and all that. Both says, yeah, well, I talked with the messenger earlier. He had already told me about that. I'm passing through. I'm just passing by. Well, then you ain't got to worry about that. You're not staying around to smell up the place. You just have to be passing by. You see, until you have bathed. You see, once you bathe, that's good. You say until you made wudu, until you have bathed. You see, and if you're sick or on an assignment, the journey there. That word for journey means an assignment. You see, you're on an assignment. You see. Not on a journey like just on vacation and all that. You're on an assignment, you see.
And the word
Or one has come from the privy. Or you have touched women and you cannot find water, then the Lord's telling you to just use sand or something to get this smell off you, you see. Get this smell off you, whatever it is, the pure earth or whatever. If you can't find water, you see, then do that. And then, as the brother said, the Lord wants to make you clean. See, so this is one of the basic concepts of the details of Salat, which we're going to talk about in the next session.
So how does this makes you clean?
Well, I don't know, but I don't know. Just like they used to put dirt in a wound back in the day,
Mud,
that you would
right.
bleed.
And
So
on the face?
they put dirt in it. You see, pack it with dirt and all that or whatever. So back in the desert, that was you talking about maybe 1,500 years ago. You're sitting here now and you've been on the moon and back, and you want to know how does the dirt make you clean? Well, ask them back there 1,500 years ago who don't have that laptop that you sitting here with.
Well, the concept
You
of
see what I'm saying?
but here's my question now.
Yeah.
That is actually second question.
Yeah.
If the Quran is universal for past, present, and future,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
then how does that applies to me?
Yeah.
Well, so look, what if I got some stuff on my hands right now, and I go out there and get some sand and rub it, and it gets the stuff off? You ever seen them do? Mechanics
Okay,
do
so
that
that
all
makes
the
sense.
time.
Okay.
Mechanics do that all the time.
Sure do.
On my face too?
You see, yeah, whatever.
Because
If you
it
got
dries-
stuff on
it
you,
dries up the
sometimes
moisture
that
and the
rubbing
thickness,
stuff
know,
that takes the
dries
stuff
it
off
up.
you. Yeah. So
and
that
flakes
happens.
off.
You see, that happens. So there's no big issue about that.
Okay.
You see, there's no issue about that.
And also, we know we'll make clear down the road too. Then that not all these ayats are for us in this, in general or at this time either. So you don't think that the whole Quran is for you, but we got to turn there with that.
So, this verse is just telling you some basic rules of hygiene when you come in to sit in this gathering, just like we did today. Most of us today jumped up and took a bath before we came here. You see, I might not have jumped up and took a bath this morning. I normally go to the flea market. Run out in the flea market fooling around. I'll take a bath later on when I come home. Not the only one, I got to be in the flea market. But today I'm coming here, so I take a bath, I iron my clothes and put on something fresh. You see? Because I'm coming to sit in this group. I don't want to be smelling. You see? So now you can't focus. You see, your mind is strained. So all of this goes into that. Now we'll touch on that some more when we talk the next time, and I'll address some of the issues like here. Details of Salat. Details of Salat, you see? The Salat, meaning close following, was for the remembrance of Allah. That's in chapter 20, verse 14. Of the description of Bismillah of God, the description of God that informed. Adam too informed by his Nabi, that's not a description. The messenger rehearses to you the signs of his Lord. So he's rehearsing, the prophet is rehearsing the Salat, you see? He's telling you and demonstrating to you what you should do and how you should do whatever you do, you see? So I'm going to show you this whole thing here about this as well as other places where the details of Salah is in the Quran, because the people are saying, well, brother, how are we going to make Salah when we don't know the details? That's the details for that ritual you do. You have to find out because it's not in the Quran. The details for the Salah that the Quran tells you, the details are in here.
Right.
And we're going to show you those details, and this is part of them, okay?
Okay.
So now, when you talk about the other one, wash your hands and so forth and all that, this is basic rules of hygiene. You see, basic rules of hygiene. When you come into the prayer, you see, if you had sex and all that, then you're wallowing around with your wife, then maybe you take a whole bath. But if not, you just wash certain parts of your body that are normally exposed. You see, and make sure you're clean. You see, basically, that's what that is. What we showed last week. Why, as the brothers was also saying, that the ritual salah cannot be. So whatever this is, it's got nothing to do with that. You have to find in the Quran what it's got to do, because we said it's got nothing to do with that. Now, one question for you. Did any point last week stand for you that you said, wow, that cannot be negated? Is there any point that we said last week that's stuck in your mind that cannot be negated to show that that cannot be a ritual salah? Just one point.
Yes, I was going to say, I wouldn't say something that really did not hit me concrete, except for one thing that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I still had to research, and I have come across before too.
Okay, what's one?
When you say, when you do salah, okay, how could you do salah of Allahu Akbar? Okay.
Yeah.
And then actually, I could see that because
Mm-hmm.
I did the search, I have a software, and then you find Allahu Akbar.
Good.
So once the word is not in actual Quran, then where did it derive from? It got me thinking. Although again, I didn't have the concrete something to look into it, but I do know that when we call for it, we use Allah Akbar. When we start Salah, we call Allah Akbar.
And that's a term of comparison.
So
Right.
it did hit me on that portion.
Good.
But this is not the first time I have come across this. So I was saying, you know what, I'm going to come back and look into it. But when I do I haven't read completely Quran in sense of like understanding wise,
Yeah.
having a comprehension. I have a software when I do a search of Allah Akbar, I do not find that word. And I looked several times, so it made me think then where did that come from?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's something that hit me.
But we showed you that Allah calls himself Al-Kabir.
Okay, correct. Yes.
That means he can't be Al-Kabir and Akbar at the same time.
Right.
He'd have to be one or the other.
Right.
You understand that, right? He can't be the big and bigger at the same time. You follow me?
Correct.
He
No.
can't be bigger and the big at the same time. He has to be one or the other. Which one do you think he is?
Well, I would say the big.
The big. That's
it.
what he says.
Or the great. Okay.
Not the big. He said Al-Kabir. That's what he says.
Okay.
So then you won't say Akbar then.
Correct.
Unless, will you?
No, that's what struck me. I said,
So
okay.
that means that's the end of that program. You
Right.
see?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
not, that's your intellectual capacity. Allah's going to ask you, did you understand that? Okay, so that one. So that stands for you. What about in 17106?
I didn't look, but.
Well, just take a look at it right now.
Go back
And see if
to
that stands for you.
Okay, let's go back.
17106. We want to see if that stands. If that stands for you right now, then that wudu stuff that you're talking about has got to be something relating to something else and not that. That makes it very easy for you now.
Okay.
You see? 17106. What does it say?
1706.
106.
106. Yeah. And it is the Quran. It might be 105, 107. I don't know.
Yep, I have 106.
Okay. What does it say?
The notes I made, we have divided Quran in portions so that what you may recite is to the people gradually.
Yeah.
And we have revealed it little by little.
Yes. So now that's the verse that you have there, right? Good. So now, what do you understand that verse to be saying, basically, in terms of recital of the Quran? To who is it to be recited to?
I guess all of us, to the people, divide the Quran, or the people of the time. Okay, well, we have divided the Quran in portions so that you may recite it to the people gradually.
Okay. Who is being addressed there?
I wouldn't know. I'm sorry. I had.
Who do you think of? Well, Allah is speaking to someone. So who do you think he's speaking to?
To everyone, all of us.
So every one of us is messengers. Every one of us was there. Jibril brought the Quran to every one of us.
I don't know if Jibril were or not.
You know somebody called Prophet Muhammad, right?
Yes, that I know.
So you know that he was a prophet, right? Who brought the Quran, right?
Yes.
And messenger. So it had to be speaking to him first of all before anybody else, right?
Yes.
So let's just assume that it's speaking to him first. He's the first one.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's speaking to him. And what is it telling him?
We have divided the Quran in portions.
That's God speaking to him.
Okay.
That's God speaking to him, right?
Yep, that makes
Not
sense.
Abu Bakr or somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
So that you may recite it. I guess you tell the people.
Yeah.
Okay, gradually.
Yeah,
So
right.
it can penetrate, sink
Right.
into the mind.
Good.
Okay.
So now you think he's going to obey that, you see? He's going to recite the Quran to the people. Now, is there any verse anywhere in the Quran that you can punch up or you ever heard in your lifespan that says recite the Quran to God? Any one place in the Quran, just one place that says, we have made this Quran that you recite it to God.
So I think I kind of understand what you're saying because
I don't understand what I'm saying. Just understand what the Quran says right there, recite it to the people. Is not what I'm saying.
okay.
I'm not saying anything. You understand what the verse is saying then, right?
Yes.
And not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I want you to understand what the verse is saying.
No, that makes sense. I mean, if the God's talking, why are you talking back to that's going back to the Salat?
No, here's the point. If God told the prophet to recite the Quran to the people, can you show the verse where God told the prophet to recite it to him?
I have not looked into it. No, yeah, I don't know if it's there.
Well, I'm telling you, there's none there.
But okay.
So now, if there's none there, would that be enough to say that that's wrong what they're doing?
Correct. Because in that case, if that's correct, what you're saying, then yes, it is.
Good. So let's just take a situation like this. The Quran is guidance, right?
Yes.
Guidance, right? Guidance. So who do you think needs guidance? God or the people?
We do.
I'll make it easy for you.
Sure.
God or the people?
People.
People, right. See, I made that very easy for you.
Yes.
God or the people, you see? I give you multiple choices, God, the people, but I'm going to say, well, let me see, the birds need it and poop, and, yeah. This God or the people. So God doesn't need guidance, right?
Honestly, yes.
And the Quran is from him to guide the people, right? So, and he told Muhammad to recite it to the people so they can get the guidance if they believe it or not, right? So why would you suppose somebody would recite it to God?
Well,
Because it has the same attributes. Now it's just the guides. It's not going to change. That it's like these are ski boots, but now I can use them for desert boots. You see? No, these are for skis. They lock on the skis. You say, well, brother, it's not snowing here, so we can use these same boots for desert boots now. You see, it's not that. This has one purpose. You see, the Quran goes one way. The Quran goes one way. The Quran doesn't go back. It's not a two-way street. You see some streets that are one way, right? What happens when you try to go back the other way? You have an accident, right? You have a problem. So the Quran is one way. It's from God out to the people, right? It doesn't go back to God. You don't recite it back to God.
Understandable.
You see?
That leads me to unfortunately another question, which I didn't want to go.
Well, let's finish this one first.
It links to what you just saying.
Okay, go ahead. Link it then. Yeah.
So, what you were telling me, this whole book is,
Yeah.
is from the God to the people.
Yeah.
But the first thing when I came in,
Except the Fatiha.
okay, so
Except the
because
Fatiha.
that's where I was getting confused now. Okay.
Oh, you're not confused with that.
Because you said
I'm talking about the whole Quran, not the Fatiha. Fatiha is not the Quran. I'm talking about the Quran.
So Fatiha is not part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you said that it was supplication. I remember from that.
Yeah, because the Fatiha is something that you send up.
Okay.
The Quran is something to sit down.
So the supplication is not part of the Quran.
No, the Fatiha is something that you ask for guidance. It's from you. That's from you. It's not from
Okay.
God.
Okay.
It's you talking to God. That's not God talking to you. You see, the Fatiha, you can't recite the Fatiha to nobody else, can you?
Well, that's what I was trying to say. But okay. Yeah.
No, here's what I'm saying. Can you recite the Fatiha to him and request of him, address him with the Fatiha? Says, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Malik Yawmiddin Iyaka. That's ka, second person. I'm the first person. I said Iyaka. You're the next person. Iyaka Nabudu wa Iyaka Nasta'in. I'm talking to you now. Only one person I'm talking to. You see? There's one person I'm addressing. Iyaka. You see? I can't say Ihdina Siratal Mustaqim to him. I can't say that to him. The Fatiha can only be recited to God. It's from us to God. It's not from God to us. God is not reciting that to you, asking you nothing. You follow me? So now let's get something straight here, because you see, once you get these things straight, you begin to clear your path.
Right.
You see, but if you don't get these straight,
Right.
then you don't need to move any further. You'll never get cleared. So if you don't understand that this Quran is from God to the people, and not from the people to God, you don't send God no messages. You don't recite nothing to God. You're not telling God what to do. For instance, look what you told God to do. We said in chapter 108, Surah 108. Look what, if you recite the Quran to God, look what you're telling God.
Surah what?
108.
108?
Yeah. Because you recite that. In the month of Ramadan, they said they recite the whole Quran. So they recite this portion also.
Sure do.
Don't say, well, brother, we just don't recite that part. You recite all of it in Ramadan.
Sure
You
do.
stand
Like
and
in
recite
Tawheed
this to
prayers.
God.
Yes.
Tawheed.
Yeah.
those
Surah
prayers.
Qasas, yes.
Yeah. So now look what you're reciting to God when you recite this verse here.
Yeah.
Look.
Surely, O Prophet says, okay.
Huh?
It says, O Prophet, surely.
It doesn't say no old prophet in the Arabic.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Surely they have given you
Yeah.
the Al-Qasr. Okay.
Yes. So now let's stop right there, because you are a man of technology and wisdom and knowledge. So this is a very simple baby blue verses here now.
Sure.
So just if I ask you, Brother Imran, so what is your Quran? What does it say in there? This is your Quran. You got them all up there.
Correct.
So I ask you, Brother, what is that you got up there? It's the Quran. I said, can I look through it for a minute? And I looked through it and said, wow, this is interesting. Can you explain this to me? So I want you to explain it to me now.
Okay, I didn't know I was
I don't know.
fire. That's one question, but sure, go ahead. But I
Yeah,
understand.
go ahead.
Okay, so it's Allah is talking.
Allah is talking. Great.
That they have given you this Al-Qasr. I don't know the meaning of Al-Qasr.
Yeah, but who's he talking to?
We have given you, I'm thinking Prophet.
Good, good. He's talking to the Prophet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So offer Salat
Mm,
to your Lord and sacrifice.
right.
And the next sentence says, surely it is your enemies whose faces are cut off.
Good, good. So now God is saying this to the prophet. And you know, he's only saying this to the prophet. He's not saying it to nobody else, because the grammar in Arabic there is second person masculine singular. You see, God is the first person, the speaker, and the person spoken to is the second person. So it says, Inna atayna ka. Ka is second person. Kalkaltha. Fasali li rabbika, second person, one her. Inna shani akka, one her. You see? Kalkaltha, yeah.
So God means actually it's
It's the second person masculine singular gender. Masculine gender singular, one person.
And if it was a feminine, then what would that be?
He, something like that, or whatever.
Okay, good to know. I didn't know. Okay,
But here's the point now. Here's the point. So now, when you reverse it and send it back to God, you're making yourself the first person, and you're making him the second person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You see? You're making him the second person. So you're talking directly to God, and you're telling him what to do.
Right.
You're saying that we, meaning the people here, we the people who are my whole crew here, we have given you, God, the abundance of good. So don't you do what we tell you to do. We want rain, we want crops to grow and all that. Don't be messing around, because we gave you abundance of good. You know, all these sacrifices and dead bodies we brought and put out here on the hill and all that. We killed our babies and stuff for you. Buried them alive. You see? So you pray to your God because you just Akbar. You pray to the one who's Al Akbar. You see? Your God who's bigger than you. You pray to him. Because you just Akbar. You're Allahu Akbar. You're the God who's Akbar. Pray to the Allahu Al Akbar. You pray to him and you make sacrifices. Otherwise your stuff will be cut off. That's what you're saying to God. You can say that to God?
No, it doesn't make sense.
So why would you recite this to God then?
I have not. Have you actually? I actually recite when I prayed.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily religious, but I used to pray Surah Ikhlas.
Now here's my point.
But were any of you guys used to do it?
Here's my point.
The point though.
So now, just say class. Okay, look. Since you think you're gonna get away with that one. Look, yeah.
But that's what we taught. Yeah.
There's no problem with you taught.
Well, Hamza said that though.
Here, look. E-class.
So that's that.
112.
112.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Watch how he's jammed immediately right out the
Well,
gate.
that's good. I would love to see that.
Well, good. Look how you jam right out the gate. It says, cool. Tell them. Now, you jam. You said that to God. Tell them. What are you telling God to tell who? It says, cool. Tell them. So that's what you said to God. Cool. You want God to tell somebody something.
No.
Tell them that Allah is one. The one that he, you understand, is under. You see, the Al-Kabir. That he's one. The Al-Kabir now, that's the real one. Cool. So now you're standing there telling God, because you're standing by yourself. You're saying, Kul hu Allahu ahad. You're standing there by yourself. Tell them. Say. You're commanding, this is a command. You're commanding God to say that somebody's one? It's not for you to say to God.
No,
it's to say to somebody else.
Yeah.
So you see how you
That's what
jam
makes
them
it vague.
immediately again.
It's a shirt.
You see?
Does that make sense?
You can see how silly this is, Brother Imran. Look, you gotta get rid of them sentiments and all that foolishness that you've been weird with. You see, it's nonsense.
Right.
You are responsible. You see, if I'm a little man right here sitting in America, you understand, grew up under little sharecroppers and all that. You came from Pakistan where all that big Islam and all that. If I can know this, how come you don't know it?
It's true.
You see? Because Allah allows to know whoever wants to know. So my point is that you don't have no excuse for not knowing this. You can't just use your ancestors and all that, what they taught you and what I've always been used to and all that. You got to get rid of that. Otherwise, you're going to be held accountable. If I'm holding you accountable right now, imagine God. You couldn't even get out of my court right now. I'd jam you. If I was punishing you for not getting this right, I'd jam you right now. I said, look, I'm taking all your stuff in here because you're not worthy of this. You don't even know this here.
No, thank you for showing
You
me.
see?
That's good.
Yeah, so you jam.
No, I believe I accept that.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. There's no question. If
So
I see-
next week, next time when we bring the Salat argument, we're going to show you what it is and jam you even more. But we said what it can't be, you see? So these are why it can't be that.
Right.
Because you can't recite the Quran to God. He's never told you to do that. You see? This Quran is recited to the people, not to God. No place you recite the Quran to God. Follow me? All right, look. Let me just show you, unless somebody else has something else, I'll show you a couple other observations I made.
One moment, I'm gonna get my paper out here. So I get my notes going.
And are we still on 443, or are we going,
No, we finished with that.
Don't do
Okay,
Yeah, we finished with that for now.
okay.
I just wanted to throw something that I know. Again, I didn't mean to be critical or anything.
Yeah, he wanted to
No,
throw
no,
a
You don't
wrench.
apologize for
He
anything,
wanted to
man.
throw a wrench in the game and see if you could work with that.
Right,
Yeah,
you don't
but-
apologize- you
but-
don't
Well, that's
apologize
good.
for
That's what
anything,
you gotta
man.
do. That's what you're supposed to do.
Right,
So don't let these guys sit up here and try to smooth this
Right.
thing over. I'm gonna throw this out there and see what it is.
right.
You know,
Well,
like
that's
like
what they
Pharaoh
said.
people, throw this thing down and see if your snake
Points
can
behind you.
work with
That's
it.
what they said.
Exactly.
Points behind
You
you.
see, but our snake ate the stuff right on up.
Completely.
You see, he threw down his stuff, and then we threw down, and his
There
stuff
it
got
is.
swallowed right up.
Wait, and one more. I'm just sorry. Just to bring up a point. One more clue that you know that this has nothing to do with a ritual voodoo is the simple fact that when it's done, the voodoo is always done 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's not what's prescribed here. I mean, it's a simple clarification of just wash your face's hands to the elbows, rub your heads and ankles. It's not saying doing it 2 or 3 times. You know, so that's just another clue how to know that that's not part of a ritual voodoo.
Give me an example. You see, if I ask one of the sheikhs, I said, excuse me, you make Salatul Dor and Asa, you make them quietly, right? But when you go on Juma, you change around and make it loud. The same door. The same Salatul Dor, now you make it loud on Juma, on that Friday. Why do you make it loud? Who told you to make it loud on Friday and make it silent the rest of the week? Where did you find that in the Quran? The Quran is fully explained, detailed, and clear. Contains everything. I said, excuse me, where do you find to make that Salatul Dor
Good point.
loud on Friday and then quiet the rest of the days? Can you show me the chapter and verse? Where are they going to show me? It's un-Quranic. Got nothing to do with the Quran at all. But they do know that the Salah has to be heard. So when they call the people for the Jummah, that door, they have to recite it loud because the people have to hear it. That's why I told you, don't make your Salah too loud, don't make it quiet, but take your voice in between. So that otherwise, why don't they just, because look what they do on Jummah. They recite a khutbah, you see, something that the guy's made up himself. He's made up a khutbah. So he stands up and recites the khutbah, you see. Then after the khutbah, he says, Iqama Salah. Now he recites the Quran. He could still make it quiet, like he's been doing. He's already gave the khutbah. He don't need a loud Salah. He's done gave the khutbah already. So why is he making the Salah loud now? Because he knows that the people have to hear this Quran recited. You got them all together now. You have to recite it to them. That's all the time when the Prophet called the people for the Salah. When he called them together, you see, we're going to talk about this next week, the difference between Akimi Salah and Akimu Salah. Akimi Salah is for the Prophet, it's fixed times. For you, Salah is any time. There's no limited time. For you, the people. For the Prophet, only at fixed times. He's going to call the people at a certain time. Like you. You said, come here at 3 o'clock. I can't just come to your house like all kind of times instead of sitting and give a class. I come at fixed time for you. For me, I can study at my house all the time. Anytime. When I come here, I come at fixed times. That's Akimi for you and Akimu for me.
That's boss,
You see? We're going to show that. You see? So now we have to ask, why is just the Salatul Dor loud on one day of the week? Who told you to do that? It's not in the Quran. So that's un-Quranic. You see? Where'd you get that from? You got it from the Hadith and Sunnah. So you're in violation of Allah. See, because he told you what Hadith do you want after Allah and His ayats, and you rejected that. He told you everything is detailed in the book, and you said, no, that's not there. We got to get that there. So you've gone outside, you abandoned the Quran. So in chapter 25, verse 30, what does it say there?
Verse 3.
Yeah, what does that say?
Okay. I have it written as, and the messenger will say, "Oh my Lord, my people has taken this Quran as deserted."
Yeah, and deserted. The message is going to say that the people have deserted the Quran. his people, my people, the Arabs, Kaum, the Arabs have deserted the Quran. And where are you getting all this stuff from? From the Arabs. All the stuff you're doing, you're getting it from the Arabs in Arabia and Persia and all these places. They're the ones made this up and designed it for you. The same people who deserted the Quran and went and made up their own thing.
Is that the word it says?
What?
Salat.
Mahjuran.
No, means Arabic for when you say Arab.
Kaum.
Oh, Qawmi. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
that's
got
my people. Kaum.
My people. Okay, got it.
Kaum means my race.
Yes.
My race of people.
Same thing. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
good. Okay.
You see?
When you say Arab, I was trying to look for
Yeah.
the word Arab, but no, Qawmi.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
They're the Arabs, you see.
Gotcha, yeah.
The Quran came in Arabic,
Gotcha.
you
Okay.
see.
So that does make sense.
Yeah. So, and Allah said the Arabs are the less people to know the hudud of Allah. You see, they're the worst people to know. You know what that is in the Quran.
I saw that, but it's used Arab, I guess Arab.
Yeah, the Arabs.
And then when I was looking at it,
They said desert Arabs.
there's the Arab, but
Yeah.
the book you gave me from Idi,
Yeah.
he says no, it is Arabs
Of course it's Arabs.
because some translation I read it says Bedouin. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
Bedouin. Yeah.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, but this says Arabs, not Bedouin.
Okay.
Look, in chapter 9, verse 97, it says Al-Arabu. Al-Arabu.
I'm sorry,
The Arab. 997. Yeah. The dwellers of the desert, the Arabs, you see, are the hardest in kuf. They're the hardest in kuf, disbelief. And munafik, hypocrisy. And the most disposed not to know the limits of Allah revealed to his messenger. They're the ones who don't hardly know nothing.
and it's still doing it right now.
Of course they are, and you're still following them.
Yeah.
I don't mean you personally.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
mean you, mean the people who follow that, you're following them.
Right. It's a
So
big
you're in the same program with them.
tourism is a big industry, you know.
Yeah. So what are we following them for? So that's why we follow the Quran, and we don't have that mess that they're doing. You see? Now, another point I'm observing is that the Isra, you see, the Isra. If you look at the Isra that they talk about in the Hadith, they tell you that this is when the Prophet went up to heaven to get the Quran, right?
Okay.
It says the book of Salat, how the prayer was prescribed on the night of Isra. You see, Isra. Miraculous journey of the Prophet to Jerusalem and then to heaven. Ibn Abbas said Abu Safyan was telling the narration of Hercules mentioned. The Prophet ordered us to offer prayers regularly and to be true and chaste. Narrated Abu Dar. Allah's apostle said, the roof of my house was made open while I was in Mecca, and Jibril descended and opened my chest and washed it with Zamzam. You see that? The roof of my house was made open while I was in Mecca. I said, well, that's got nothing to do with the Quranic concept of Israel. Take a look at 17:1.
Okay, I'm looking at it. Glorious is who made the servant travel by night
Yeah, good.
from Al-Masjid around to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa,
Good.
whose environs are we have blessed,
Good.
so that we'll let him see some of our signs.
Good. So now, 17:1.
Yep.
You see?
17:1.
See, it starts off by Subhanallah Isra. You see, the Isra talks about the Isra. You see,
And the meaning of Isra is?
to journey somewhere, to
Okay.
to journey to.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Let's see if I got the definition in here.
That's fair enough. I mean, I just
Yeah.
wanted to have in a sense of
Okay.
Isra and journey. Okay.
So now, look. So now, look what this says. This verse here. We just read the opening of that hadith, right? It said that the prophet was in his house in Mecca, and the angel came and opened the roof of his house and took him out. Yet this verse here is talking about glory to him who carried his servant by night from the sacred mosque. So let's assume the sacred mosque is the mosque there in Mecca, to the remote mosque, talking about the one in Jerusalem. So the prophet ain't got no house there in the mosque in Mecca there that you had to open no roof at. His house was in the mosque at the Medina.
Okay.
What house did he have there in Mecca? And that mosque, the roof is already open. It's a courtyard. So where was the house in Mecca that he had to open to take him out?
So when they use the word Masjid al-Haram,
Yeah.
that means any...
Here's my point. The
Yeah.
point I'm making here, first of all, is if you just say, okay, Jibril, why did Jibril just take him out through the door? What's the purpose of breaking in the roof? He could just go to the door, come to the door, and say, Muhammad, come on, go with me, or reach in and bring him out. What are you gonna break through the roof for? You could open the window. Well, Muhammad, can you open the window and climb out? It's right there on the ground. It's not skyscrapers or nothing. Jibril's got to break through the roof. You see? Now somebody got to fix the roof. So what happened? Jibril came and broke through it last week. So now you got to fix the roof up and all that.
And it's still
Was
not
it
true.
his house? Did he rent the house or what?
I hear various of stories. Sometimes it was in his house. Sometimes it was in his slave home.
Yeah.
Sometimes his son home. So I don't know.
So whatever this was, in verse 60 it tells you that it was a vision. You see, it addresses this issue as a vision. In verse 60, it says, "Alright," you see, and when he said to thee, surely that thy Lord encompassed men, and we made not the vision which we showed thee to be but a trial. Vision. This is a vision. You see, I already checked it. Here's the words right here: a dream or a vision or sleep. It's from Lane Lexicon. Word by, you see, a vision.
I see.
Yeah, not to be taken physically. But so now the point I'm making is, was he taken from Mecca to Jerusalem, or was he taken from Medina to Jerusalem? You see, because there ain't no house that he got there in Mecca to open up no roof for at the sacred mosque. Where's this house at the mosque there? You see, he ain't got no house there. If you ever been there, you go to Medina, he's buried there, and his little house used to be right there. You see, he used to be right there in that mosque, not there. You see, so I'm saying that's going to conflict with the Quranic concept of this here and more other things. That's something to ask the question. The roof of the mosque is open, while the roof of the house had to be open already, broken into. So that's a problem there. Now, it said he was made ascension, right? He took the ascension. So my next point is it possible for a mortal to ascend to heaven? A mortal, according to the Quran. Can a mortal, a person who's bashar, can he ascend to heaven? According to the Quran, is ascension possible for a mortal? Well, let's take a look. Because if you read in John chapter 3, verse 13, the book of John, anybody got a Bible with them real quick?
I can.
Just to introduce this.
No.
I can.
It says
John
John.
chapter 3, verse 13.
John what?
3:13.
I don't know how to look at it, but I'll look how do you look into speak by verse? Okay.
John 3:13. Hamza?
If I was going
John. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the you're in the Old Testament. You got to go down to the New.
That reads, and no
What he's got right
man,
there.
Oh,
What is that?
and no man hath ascended up to heaven, but they had came down from heaven. Even the Son of Man.
which is in heaven. No man has ascended to heaven except he that came down from heaven. In other words, nobody can go up to heaven except for a person who came down from heaven. You see? If you didn't come down from heaven, then you can't go up to heaven. You see? No man can go up to heaven unless he came down from heaven. So that's a standard rule there. We want to see, does the Quran support that position? So what goes up to heaven? Does spiritual things go up or physical things go up to heaven? Let's take a look and see. According to the Quran, is ascension possible for a mortal? First, let's take a look at 1793. What does it say? So now we're going to see if that ascension business that you can go up and get the salah and all that was even possible according to the Quran.
17 what?
93.
Or thou have a house adored with gold, or thou mount a ladder right into the skies. No, we should not even believe in thy mountain until thou sent down to us a book that we could read. Say, glory to my Lord. I am aught but a man, a messenger. Question.
Look at that. So the Arabs there are taunting him. You say, look, if you have a house of gold, or if you ascend into the heaven, and we will not believe that you ascended into heaven even, unless you bring down to us a book we can read. So he tells them, say, glory to my Lord, I'm only a mortal man. You know, what do you challenge me with this kind of mess for? I'm only a mortal man, a mortal, bashara, you see?
Bashara.
Yeah, you see? A mortal messenger, you see? I'm only a mortal messenger, that's all I am. You see? You asked me to go up and all that, and even if you went up, they said we wouldn't believe that you went up unless you brought us a book down that we could read. Bring us the book and we can see the book. You see, that we can read. You see, don't come telling us something that out of your mouth. Let us feel and touch it tangible. You see, that we can read it. You see, if you ain't got that, you can just say anything. So now, what about chapter 6, verse 35 and 37? Chapter 6, verses 35 and 37. And if they're running away as hard on thee, then if thou couldst see if thou canst seek an opening into the earth, or a ladder to heaven, if you could do that, and bring them a sign. And if Allah please, He would certainly have gathered them all to get the guidance, so be not of the ignorant. See, Allah tells them, if you could do this, you see, if their turning away is hard on you, then if thou canst seek an opening into the earth, if you can find an opening to go down into the earth, or a ladder to go up to heaven, you see, a ladder to go up to heaven, you see, a ladder. Allah's using a ladder because you know you can't just levitate up to heaven. You can't fly, so you need some physical something to go up. If you had a ladder big enough to go up to heaven, to bring them a sign, an ayat, you see, or salah or something. And if Allah pleased, He would certainly have guided you all. Now verse 37. And they say, why has not a sign been sent down to him? See, because that's how the signs come. Down to him from his Lord. Say, surely Allah is able to send down signs, but most of them know not. He sends signs down. You don't go up and get them. You see? Signs are sent down. You see? They want to know, how come you don't go up and get a sign? He says, I'm a mortal man. And signs are sent down. Now, what about 35:10? We want to know if a mortal person can ascend into heaven. Was the prophet immortal? He said, I'm a mortal man. Well, we want to know if he can ascend into heaven. 35:10. According to the Quran. $35:10. What does it say?
Whoever desires honor, then all honor lies with Allah alone. Towards Him ascends the pure word, and the righteous deed uplifted. As for those who plot evils, for them there is a severe punishment.
Look, so Allah tells you what ascends to Him, not people. He says, whoever desires might, then to Allah belongs the might wholly for Him. To Him ascends the goodly words and goodly deeds. Your words and your deeds ascend to Allah. That's what's waiting for you when you get there. Cause and effect. You see, cause and effect. That's the only thing that will be waiting for you when you stand before Allah. What you said and what you did will be right there waiting for you. They precede you. You see, they precede you. For every cause, there's an effect. You see, what you say, there's an effect. What you do, there's an effect. They precede you right away. That's the law. So good deeds and that. Now, let's get to the crunch of the matter. In chapter 17, verse 93, what does it say?
$17.93 said,
Or you have a house made of gold, or you ascend to the sky.
Oh, we read that one already.
Right.
Yeah. And where he says, I am but a mortal messenger, you see? Now, 42, chapter 42, verse 51 and 52. Look at it. 42.
Says, and it is not vouchsafed for mortal that Allah should speak to him except by revelation or from behind a veil or by sending a messenger and revealing by his permission what he pleases. Surely he is high and wise. And thus did we reveal to thee an inspired book by our command. Thou knewest not what the book was, nor what faith was, but we made it a light guiding thereby, whom we please of our servants, and surely thou guidest to the right path.
Good. So now what is that saying about ascension?
It's not possible for a human being.
Huh?
It is not possible for a human being to
Allah,
go up there or speak to Allah directly.
No, it says it's not for Allah to speak to a mortal, a bashara. You see? A bashara. Muhammad was a bashara.
there's no ascension.
It says if Allah's going to speak to you, He's going to speak to you this way, not by you coming up to heaven and
Right.
He's speaking to you. You ain't going to come up to heaven for Him to speak to you. It's not possible, except that He speaks to you this way. Because you say He went up to heaven and Allah told Him to make 50 salahs, and He go back and said make this, make that,
Right.
all that conversation. It says that's not possible. And the only way it's possible for Allah to speak to a bashara, look, it says, look, that Allah should speak to him, except by revelation, or from behind a veil, or by sending a messenger and revealing by his permission what he wants. That's the way he spoke to Muhammad. So by sending a messenger. So now he says, and thus did we reveal to you an inspired book by our command. You didn't know what the book was, and you didn't know what faith was. We made it a light, guiding thereby whom we please of our servant. And surely thou guided to the right way. You see? So that's how Allah spoke to Muhammad, by sending a messenger and revealing by what he commanded, not by him going up to heaven.
Right.
So if Jibril came to him, he ain't going to come and break on the roof and take him up to God. He's going to come to him and say, look, you got to make 50 salahs.
Right.
You see? God has commanded that I'm Jibril, so that you make 50. So it's the same way He brought him this whole Quran. Now all of a sudden you got to take him to heaven to get 5 salahs that he's going to debate with and all that with God. He sent him this whole Quran by Jibril. But he forgot to take the 5 salahs, so look, we'll bring him up here for that. That's a big job there. Bring him up here for that.
And what is when it says revelation? What exactly is that?
Whatever it is, it's revelation. It's not by him transporting to heaven. We can deal with that. The point is that we can deal with that. The point is that God has told you that the last way that He named there is the one that Muhammad was. He sent Jibril to him. That's the way He spoke to him, not by taking him up to heaven.
Gotcha.
So that's against this hadith. That hadith has got to be some fiction and fable. Came a couple hundred years after. So we ruled that out. Unless we trust the hadith, we said this verse is wrong. Good. Okay, so let's look at another one. So we check that one off again.
I'm gonna copy someone else's notes because I'm just going through right now, but I'm
Yeah.
not making any notes.
Well,
so-
you got it recorded, did
Yeah.
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 It's a lot easier to make copies and watch the whole thing.
See, Salah understood outside the Quran equals worship. That's the first thing you gotta know. When you talk about Salah outside of the Quran, you have to be talking about worship, not prayer. It's worship. You see? The Salah ritual that you do 5 times a day, you have to call that worship. You see? Worship, not prayer. Prayer is not necessarily formal. It's not formal. Prayer. You can do prayer any kind of way you want. It is not obligatory that you pray. You pray when you want. Nobody makes you pray. You pray because, oh, God help these folks. You pray anytime you want. It has no prescribed style, praying. If you just use the term praying. No prescribed style. And it can be recited anywhere at any time. You see? Anywhere at any time. So the closest thing to that concept would be dua. You see? Dua. outside of the Quran, the closest thing to that description outside of the Quran is dua, not salah.
Right.
In the Quran, both of them is not this description, praying. But outside the Quran, salah would have to be worship and dua would be praying. You see? Now, unlike dua, salah has a definite and precise form. Salah is a definite and precise form. You can't stray from it. It must be recited 5 times a day at given intervals. You see? So therefore that would be un-Quranic. The Quranic salah is service, not worship. You see, the Quranic salah is service, not worship.
And you say it must be or can be?
What?
Must be recited
5 times a day, yeah. The salah outside the Quran. Outside of the Quran, that ritual. That's
Yes.
worship.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you must do it 5 times a day. Pray, do whatever you want.
Right, whatever you want, okay.
You
At
see?
any time, okay.
Yeah. So that, my point here is that if you understand salah in the Quran, it's against that ritual that you do outside that worship. You see? And what you do, what you're calling prayer outside the Quran would best be described as dua. Even though that dua is not what the Quran, the dua is the invitation. Allah does it also, it's not praying. You see, we talked about that. It's an invitation, inviting, calling to something. Calling to actions. It's a call to action. You see, it's a call to action. Okay?
Very nice.
Another point I'm observing here. If salah is praying, right? If salah is praying, prayer or praying, where in the Quran does Allah say that he hears or accepts anyone's salah? Can you tell me?
Wouldn't know, but that's good to know.
We know that he accepts dua. It says in 2:186. So when my servants ask concerning me, I'm near, I hear, meaning accept the dua. Their dua. You see, their call. Can you tell me any place in the Quran where Allah says he accepts or hears salah? One place, just name one place. There's not one place. There's not one place where he says he hears or accepts salah. So if salah is a prayer, where does God say, well, how do you know that God hears or accepts the prayer? It never says nothing about hearing and accepting the salah. So that concept of salah that you're doing called praying, I'm praying, let's pray salah. There's nothing about that God hears or accepts that. No place. Now in the hadith it tells you, because it's outside, oh, God doesn't accept your prayer if you don't have wudu. Oh, God doesn't accept your prayer if you made the pass wind. If you fought it, God is not going to accept your prayer.
Graveyard, back.
Oh, you fought it? Yeah, God is not accepting your prayer from you. Imagine that. You know,
Crazy,
Yeah, right.
man.
You can't say peace upon you if you're in the bathroom.
Oh, just excuse me. I'm sorry.
until you go and make wudu.
Right.
You see.
Yeah.
So that's outside the Quran. Now, another point I'm observing. Does a person making salah do it for God or for himself?
What was the question again?
Does a person making salah do it for God or for himself?
For himself.
Six,
Huh?
My guess would be for himself.
We'll take a look at chapter 6, verse 163.
Right. That's the first thing that popped in the brain.
Only made you for salah, for praying, I guess. That's.
Excuse me?
I only made you for 6, and what was that chapter?
163.
160.
What does it say?
For him, there is no partner.
No. Show him my salah, my salah. And my salat. Show him my prayer and my sacrifice.
162.
Is it 162 or
Yeah, I have
162?
162.
Yeah,
Ah, 162, okay.
What does it say?
Say my prayer.
My prayer, that's salat, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that's salat.
Yep. my offering,
Uh,
my life, and my death
it's what?
for Allah.
It's for Allah. So your salah is salah is for Allah, not for you.
No problem.
So salah is for God. So you're praying for God.
Good, thank you for question.
Imagine that. You're praying for God. God needs your prayer. He needs you to pray for him. What did he do wrong? What did God do that you praying for him? I said, does a person making salah do it for God or for himself? You said for himself. That verse said for God. So which one of y'all is right?
So, kind of stumped.
Excuse me?
I'm kind of stumped on that. My prayers are now.
You're stumped because your thing is outside the Quran. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you're stumped. You'll be forever stumped. When it comes to outside the Quran and inside the Quran, you'll be forever stumped and you have to abandon yours. You have to abandon yours. You
Right.
see, unless you don't trust this Quran. You see? Unless you don't trust this Quran, you want to do what your ancestors did and all that, then you have to get rid of that.
Mm.
You see?
It shakes you.
Yeah.
It shake you. I was just mentioning the brother. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
But at the same time, you can say this is 2 + 2 = 4. It's just simple, clear, common sense things here. You know, there should be no obstacle to grasping this.
How could it be from God with all this problem? If I'm just sitting here now pointing to these problems, imagine if I had you in a court of law, you see, in a world court, and the people said, wow, this is a big issue here in the Muslim world. The guy's being challenged about the Quran, and the world is looking at this, you see. And I'm asking you these questions, and you can't answer them like that. Yet you say this Quran is from God, and it's telling what you're doing is from God and all that. Yet I'm just picking these little holes in your stuff all day long. Write him, he failed on this. Fail.
Mm-hmm.
Fail.
Mm-hmm.
Fail. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I just ask you, when you make salah, do you should for God for yourself? All these years you've been doing it for yourself, and the Prophet said his is for God. Mm-hmm. Yours is for yourself. I don't care what he does. He can do his for God if you want. I'm doing mine for myself.
Mm-hmm.
That means salah is service.
Mm-hmm.
Service, and so your service is for God. It's not praying.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
51,
Your service is for the purpose of God. You're serving for God's purpose.
51, 56.
See? Yeah.
But you know what I find really, after the brother speaking here, is how, like, just say if you relate it to yourself, being a director in Microsoft and stuff like that, how you can do that with precision, but then when it comes to your creator and your soul, how you don't give that much thought. So now you can see where 2530 comes into effect. How you abandon this Quran, you know?
Oh, I see.
So, when you make your salah, every time in every rakat, you ask God for guidance. I'm asking you, is there anywhere in the Quran, that anybody asks God for guidance?
Yes, Surah Al-Fatah.
That's not in
That's
the
not
Quran.
strong.
Oh, okay.
That's not in the Quran. The mere fact that it's not in the Quran, because after Fatiha you don't see nobody asking for guidance no more. Because the Quran is guidance. So no place ever again is anybody asking God for guidance after Fatiha. Because the Quran is the guidance. So that shows that that's not in the Quran. It's a request outside of the Quran. It's you asking God for guidance, and the Quran is the guidance came to you. After the Fatiha, nobody ever asked God for guidance nowhere. Ever. Ever. If anything, look at what it says in 47:17.
717, right?
47:17. Those who follow guidance, he increases them in guidance.
Those who-
That's what you get. You get increased in guidance. You don't have to ask for guidance. You get increased in the guidance. You already got guidance. You just increase in it. You become better guided.
That's for those who have adopted the right path. Allah improves them in guidance and give them their pity.
Yeah. So these are a few points. I'll stop right there. That I made more observations about why that ritual outside of the Quranic concept cannot be what Salat is. Now, like I said, the next time we sit down, hopefully we'll engage in what the Quranic concept is.
Nice.
I'm waiting for that.
But we see now that we got so much stuff that you can't continue doing that
Right.
in the face of this. You have to stop and say, wait a minute. My common sense, which
Right.
Allah says He created from your mother's womb, He gave you hearing, sight, and intellect. Hearing, sight, and intellect. You see? Hearing, so you can hear somebody say something. Sight, so you can read what they said. Hearing, so you can see. So when Brother Hamza gave a lecture today, I wasn't there. I wish I could have heard it. Said, well, here's the notes. You got sight, right? Yeah, you can read it. And then intellect. You see? So you got the benefit of Brother Hamza being here. Every day you didn't hear him, you can read what he says, so it's like you was here to hear it. You see? So they gave you hearing, sight, and intellect. You see? That you might give thanks. But he says, little do you give thanks. Why? Because you don't use it.
Exactly.
You don't use it. You see? So if you use your hearing, sight, and intellect, you have to say, wait a minute, this stuff is not right. This is not from the Quran. What they're doing is not from the Quran. It's an empty ritual. It's a vain repetitions. It's insanity. It's an empty ritual that they do over and over and over again. And look at the poverty, look at the foolishness, look at the fighting and the killing and all that. Would you think that the people who pray 5 times a day, 7 times, booba, 17 times, or whatever it is, that they do over and over for year and year and year would be in chaos like they're into like that? God is with them?
Can't
What
be.
kind of God is that? That's why the
Can't be.
people say, what kind of God is that? Jesus
Right.
is love. That's why they say, well, we want
Right.
Jesus.
Can't be.
Jesus is love.
Can't
We
be.
don't want that God of the Arabs. You see, look at him. What has he done for you? What has he done for you? I finished a debate in Texas, and one of the guys asked, I wish I'd have known what I knew now, that I could have responded to him differently, but he asked me, says, Mr. Malik, what has God done for you? You see? Your Quran, that kind of thing. What has it done for you? You see? Look at all the foolishness that's going on and going on and going on. And I blew him off with some kind of thing just to blow him off and kept moving. You see? But the point is, I could tell him what God has done for me now. Maybe use my intellect and see that what you're doing and all these rituals and religions and all that's the foolishness.
Mm-hmm.
Yours and the Arabs and all of them. And that Islam is a way of life done consciously in obedience to God. Anybody who does that, they are called a Muslim, a submitter of whatever language you use it in. Just call it that. God told me the other day, a guy I'm running with, I just met him, and he's just getting to be annoying. I just met him. A nice guy, but annoying, you know. Just talk. Talk. And I'm trying to like focus and all that. I just met him. Flea market guy, we run, buy tapes. So I said, I'm going to jam him the next time when I meet him. So he says, you watch the football game and you watching blah, blah, blah. I said, nah, I ain't got time. I said, I'm retired. I said, basically, I'm a specialist in comparative religion. He said, what is that? I said, I lecture and debate, lecture and debate about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I said, I'm a Muslim, by the way. He said, you're a Muslim? He said, you don't look like a Muslim. You don't act like a Muslim. Like these guys, what he says, He says, there's one living in my building, the guy's a nut. He said, because I don't have the dress and the red beard and boob and walking around acting all snobby and all that kind of thing. I act like a regular person to him.
Right.
I said, what, I act like a regular? I said, that's what a Muslim is, just a regular person.
Right.
I said, these people are following traditions and customs and all that kind of thing. That's what that is. But my point is that had I known to respond to him, in a different way, I could have responded to him the very simple, basic, fundamental concept of what Islam is and how it relates to a person, any person. You follow me? Any person. So again, if any of these points stand, what we just went over today, any of them, you see, like the one where God speaks to Muhammad by sending a messenger to him, not by taking him up to heaven. That's against the Quran. He says, I'm on it. When they ask him, how come you don't go up and all that? He says, I'm immortal. You see, and Allah says it's not for him to speak to a mortal, but except by doing this way.
You know, and with that concept, I mean, when I first came into the deen, I said, wow, how does God change his mind? Anyway, that's what I always started off to do with that whole tale. I'd have to find an ayat that would speak to that, maybe,
Yeah.
but how does Allah change his mind in a debate with somebody?
Multiple times.
Yeah.
That's just, you know,
Yeah.
you see?
Well, they palm it off by saying that actually God shaved it down to 5, but he made 5, 10, each one is 10, so it's 50, like he got his way anyway. It's like a shrewd way of negotiating, but I still got what I want. You see, I want $10 for the thing, so I asked you for 15. You said no. Can you take 8? I said no. Well, 13. You said no. Well, so I said, well, let's give me 10. He said, okay, I'll give you 10. That's all I wanted in the first place. Was 10. I made it up high and we negotiated both, and I brought it down from 15 to 10 because all I wanted was 10 in the first place.
Boy, that's the...
So God wanted you to do 50, and he just made you do each one 5 and 10. That's 50 anyway. See, but they refused to see that the hadith went further, said that Moses told Muhammad to go back because he couldn't do 5 even. And he said, the only reason I didn't go back is because I was too embarrassed. Not that I doubted Moses, I'm just too embarrassed to go back to God. I trust what Moses is saying, because it already didn't worked a couple of times, but I'm just too embarrassed. So you can see the ludicrous nature of the hadith.
And then God accepting, okay, you're fine.
Right.
People cannot pray.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
See?
So that is a
So that whole thing is foolishness. And we're going to deal with that the next time. We'll pick that hadith thing apart, and we'll deal with it, you
Sure.
see. And
I'll put a stop. And on a lighter note, I'm gonna actually, you mentioned about that beard and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I saw this video. I don't know, you probably have seen it. Okay, you're good to go.
Yes, my name is Muhammad Shafiq Ali, and we're here at Imran's house, and we just finished discussing on reviewing the Salat and the Quranic concept of Salat. And in doing so, I found that one of the reasons this topic is important. What is the Quranic? What is the source of guidance for Muslims according to the Quran? Why I find that this topic is so important is because during our previous discussion, we find that the brother Imran had certain concepts that are carried over from certain other writings, such as fiqh, hadith books, that people tend to believe that these are a source of guidance also. So I would like to begin just giving a few ayats from Quran in terms of what Allah has said, what the source of guidance is. And from this maybe we can determine whether this includes fiqh, hadith, fatwas, or any kind of religious rulings from man himself. And I'd like to begin or open up this topic with in the Quran, chapter 20, verse 50. And there we'll see that if we read that verse in context, we see that Pharaoh had posed a question to Moses. And that question he posed to Moses was, "Who is your Lord, O Moses?" And Moses' replies was to Pharaoh. He said, "Our Lord is he who gives everything its creation, then guides it." So I wanted to look other places in the Quran to see if this could be substantial. So I went to the creation story, chapter 2, verse 38. where Allah speaks about Adam and the creation of Adam. And the story actually starts there from 2 chapter 30, and you know, to get a gist of what's being said there, and we get to 38 after the devil had made Adam slip. In verse 37 it says, "Then Adam received words from his Lord, and he turned to him mercifully. Surely he is oft returning to mercy, the merciful." And in verse 38 in particular, God is telling Adam, he said, "We said, go forth from this state all. Surely there will come to you a guidance from me. Then whoever follows my guidance, no fear shall come upon him, nor shall they grieve." So in this verse here, there's two guidances mentioned twice. One guidance is a guidance, and the next one is my guidance. And when I looked at the term a guidance, I pondered over that verse for a minute, and I said, well, there's a lot of literature out here, a lot of people out here that profess to be a source of guidance. So in terms of Islam. So I said to myself, is this what we should be following, all encompassing, or is there one source that we should follow? So as I proceeded to read the Quran, I went to chapter 2. Well, let me stop right here. Let me just go back. And then Allah speaks about whoever follows my guidance. So let's see how Allah's guidance pans out towards man. So a sidebar to that would be 735, where Allah speaks, where he says, "O children of Adam." He says, "O children of Adam, if a messenger comes to you from among you, relating to you my messages, then whoever guards against evil and acts aright, they shall have no fear, nor shall I grieve." So one of the points that are key in Allah's guidance, or Allah's guidance coming to mankind, is a messenger. And as we know from previous classes, a messenger and message means the same thing. And these messages are contained in the ayats of Quran. And getting back to this source of guidance that will come through the messengers, and speaking of Allah's guidance, in chapter 2 verse 120, Allah says, in chapter 2 verse 120, he says that, if I may read it here, he says, surely Allah's guidance, that is the guidance. And when you look at the Arabic term, it says al-huda. Al-huda, in chapter 2 verse 120. Allah's guidance, out of all the guidance that you can get, that will give you this salvation, Allah's guidance, that is the guidance. That is the guidance. And he goes on to say in chapter 10, verse 35, about this guidance, the guidance. He says in 10:35, it says, say, is there any of your associate gods who guide to the truth? Who guides to the truth? Say, Allah guides to the truth. Then he poses the question, is he then who guides to the truth more worthy to be followed, or he who finds not the way unless he's guided? What is the matter with you, and how do you judge? So when we take what I just said previously about these 3 verses, Allah sends this guidance through messengers. And we look at the Prophet Muhammad, which is connected with Hadith or Sunnah. And we have a sect of Muslims who actually follow Hadith and Sunnah. So should we follow Muhammad? Because in the Quran it says, if you love me, follow me, and Allah will love you. So what is this following of Muhammad in terms? Are we to follow Allah's guidance, or are we to follow Muhammad's guidance, as such we have in Hadith? I'm of the sound of a statement, no. We have to follow Allah's guidance. And the reason why I say that is based on this verse 1035, where he says, who is more worthy to be followed? Him who guides, or him who can't find a way unless he's guided? So a sidebar to that would be 93.7. 93.7. 93.7. And if we look in the Quran in 93.7, and speaking about Muhammad, where Allah is speaking about Muhammad, it says, did he not find thee an orphan? This is the 6th verse in context here. Did we not find thee as an orphan and give thee shelter? And did we find thee groping and he showed you the way? And if you look at the Arabic term there, the term is dolan, which means to be astray. So even Muhammad needed this guidance. So if we go back to 1035, Allah asked the question again, who is more worthy to be followed? Him who guides, or him who can't find the way unless he's guided? So we see here that the Prophet Muhammad was even guided by Allah. From that point, I have to ask the question, how does this guidance come to you? How does this guidance come to you? In what manner does it come to you? So when you turn to chapter 7, verse 52, verse 52, we see there, it says, and certainly we have brought them a book, which we make clear with knowledge, a guidance and a mercy for people who trust, or people who believe. What are you believing in? You're believing in Allah, that He is the guidance, that He is the source of guidance, and you're believing in this book, in that which He sent to you. And that can be shown in chapter 5, verse 15 through 16. Where it states to the people that received the book, and in especially speaking, if you read in the verses here, it says, O people of the book, indeed our messenger has come to you, making clear to you much of that which we have concealed of the book, and passing over much. Indeed there has come to you from Allah a light and a clear book. With it, Allah guides such as follow His pleasure into the ways of peace, and brings them out of darkness into light by His will, and He guides them to the right path. Now this right path that He's guiding to you is what you request supposedly 5 times a day in your Quran. In the Fatiha, verse 1, 5. You make that request. Oh Allah, guide us on the Salat al-Mustaqim. And this request is fulfilled by Allah, that He sends you a book or a message with the messenger.
What ayah is that?
1:5.
Excuse me?
No, you said
1:5. Surah Al-Fatiha.
Excuse me?
You said
Chapter 5, verse 15 and 16.
oh, okay.
Right?
Thank you.
And if we want to, and if we want to see the result of this, in chapter 3, verse 7, in chapter 3, verse 7, the people's reply to their Lord after sending them this guidance is, our Lord, make not our hearts deviate after Thou hast guided us, and grant us mercy from Thee. Surely Thou art the most giving. And if you want to look at this again in the end of all things, like after death in paradise or wherever it is that you're going to go, in chapter 7, verse 43, 7:43, it is said there, and we shall remove, this is in paradise now, right? And we shall remove whatever ill feelings is in their hearts. Rivers flow beneath them, and they say, all praises is due to Allah, who guided us to this paradise. It doesn't speak about anyone but Allah here. And we should not have found the way if Allah had not guided us. Certainly the messengers of our Lord brought the truth. And it will be cried out to them, this is the garden which you are made to inherit for what you did. Your actions. So this is the verses that I came up with on short notice. I wanted a little bit more time to really rehash this out and really get it. But these are the verses I came up with myself to substantiate the source of guidance should be Quran alone, Allah alone, and not Allah and or Quran and, in order for the guidance for Muslims. And the reason why I'm doing this videotape is to refine myself in terms of articulation when I actually put this in the mainstream. And that's it. So if there's any critique or any questions, I welcome it.
Okay.
In seeking to improve myself. I knew he was gonna jump.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good lecture. You know, you hit on a lot of pertinent things, matters here.
Okay.
You know, I like how you started with 2050. I didn't mind 238. You know, I don't want you to get into the creation theory per se, but that a guidance came, my guidance, and then 220. Well, Allah identifies himself as that being that guidance. So I was okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought you would have gone into 1.4 a little bit early with that. After that,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just surprised.
I went to 1.5.
I mean 1.5. I'm doing 1.5. But I was just surprised that you didn't mention 619 or 1736 as the book itself, as Quran, the book itself, is named in those ayats as the source of guidance as well. Why you didn't do that?
Well, like I said before, though, to me, 619 would have been a sidebar. What I was concerned with was Al-Huda. You see, because there's Huda, there's guidance. You can have a guidance in a map. You can have a guidance by somebody's speech. But I was interested in the guidance that comes from your divine guidance, which comes from your Lord.
But what about 1736 as well?
No, 619 you said.
You said let's stay with 619 first instead of jumping around.
Okay, well 619.
619 says that I call to Allah. He's calling Allah to witness that the Quran was revealed to him, that with it he may warn you and whomsoever it reaches.
Right.
But when I excuse me.
Would that identify the Quran as a source?
Yes, it would identify the Quran as a source of guidance, and like I said before,
Because prior to that, you haven't identified any source of guidance.
Right.
right.
You haven't identified any source. You
Right.
see the source meaning the source of it, but what is the tangible source that we have? God is the source of
Right.
it.
Right.
But what source can we put our hands on? We can't put our hands on God. So I think what the brother's pointing out is that the title of that, where can we find that guidance? We want to put our hands on it.
Right.
Is it the Bible? Is it the Vega? Is it the Torah?
Right, exactly. I understand. Well, see, like the sidebars I had when I put 5, 15, and 16, right? The sidebars I had was 619, but I also had 25:1 and 27:1 that identified the book with the Quran.
But why would 619 be a sidebar or 1736 be? Because 1730 it says that going back to 1.4 that this Quran gave them even more than they asked for at 1.4.
Right, 17:9, not 1736, 17:9.
17:9. Thank you for the correction. Gave them more than what they asked for at 1.4. So I'm saying, why would you have those?
Well, like I said before, I had all those ayats right away, and I had asked the brother for a little bit an extension before I did this because I really wanted to prepare for it.
And
Now, those could have came right first.
Right, they could have came
There's
first.
nothing greater than the messenger calling Allah to bear witness that he's got the Quran.
Right,
That's
exactly.
not a sidebar. That's the main bar.
Okay,
That the
okay,
messenger calls Allah to bear witness that the Quran is the only thing he has.
okay,
You can't get nothing more stronger than that.
okay. So you saying
That's not
so?
a sidebar.
Okay, okay. So you're saying after 10:35?
No, not after. I'm just saying. I'm just agreeing with the brother here. Not in order where you put it. I'm just
Okay.
saying. He asked you why did you leave it out? 619.
Okay,
And you said that was a sidebar.
Right.
He's saying how could that be a sidebar like 1719,
17:9,
which says it's giving you more than what you asked for. That's not a sidebar.
Right.
You asked for guidance, and he's giving you that would gives you more than you asked for.
right,
Aqwam. You wanted to be guided. What's the king? That's Aqwam. That's more than
right,
what you asked
right.
for. And then the source of that guidance, that you said Allah and His messenger, that He says the messenger himself called Allah who sent them to bear witness that I'm sent with the Quran.
Right.
So we name the things, whether not Quran and Sunnah
Right.
or Tafsir, Fiqh or anything. So I think that's what you were
Right.
kind of
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But again, I'm not making excuses. I should have put that in there. But my approach with that would have been 1-5. It would have been 1-5 first. 5-16. 5. It would have been 1-5 first in the request for guidance. Then it would have been where he sent that book, the 752. You see, 752, where he says he sends a book for guidance. And then I would have came with the 619, which would
would have
specified-
had what prevented you? What
Right.
prevented you from doing
because
it?
I was trying to do another approach.
But you said you
towards this.
would have,
Right.
as if something prevented you from doing it. So you did another approach and you left the thing out that you would have done.
Right.
I don't know how that makes sense.
Maybe you just need to refine, just like you said. Just refining it. That's all.
Right.
That's
right.
all.
Right.
We'll come back
Exactly.
to it.
Yeah, you think he's gonna bail you out of it?
No, but
No,
he
it's
said,
not bailing out. It's not. It's not bailing out, brother. It's not
I'm
bailing.
talking about him.
But quite frankly,
Yeah.
I'm prepared. I should have had the 619. I should have had the 17:9 first. These are things that we went over in the past.
Right.
I was trying to do another approach and then get to that. Actually get to that. So what I did, I just made things concise because I had a whole about 4 pages of verses that I was trying to concise and make it so I can give a smooth
I
delivery.
think the problem was when you call 619 a sidebar.
Right, that was a big
You see,
problem.
when you call that a sidebar, that made it a problem.
Okay.
Because it's not a sidebar.
Okay.
Like an extra. I had that for something extra.
Right.
Like we had the meal and I got some chips and cookies. and all
No,
that.
see, maybe it's my
No.
understanding of sidebar. When I say sidebar, just like when I did 238, I did 735 that shows like a smooth connection or smooth flow between verses. So when you do 619, it has to show a smooth, like you do 619 and then you come back with the 17:9. You see that this Quran guides to what is most upright. You understand? This Quran guides most upright. But in starting, you have to show that this source of guidance, this Quran, is coming from Allah. So I wanted
that was good.
Yeah, that was established. That was established. Like I said, I left that out,
But the
and,
smooth
and
thing
I
was-
don't have no excuse for it. I left it out, and it should have
Because
been
the
there.
precise and concise method
Right.
would have been like after 2-1-20, you go to like 1-4, 5-15 and 5-16,
1-5, right,
16-19, 17-30. That would have been the concise path.
right. Say that again. Say it again. Speak it.
Oh,
Speak
I
it.
said 1-4, 5-15 and 16.
What you said?
6-19.
What after? Tell me what? One.
1-4 is the
Right.
request for guidance.
Right.
5-16 is the answer to that
Right.
guidance. Enlightenment Clear book.
Right.
And then 6-19 and 17-9.
17-9.
Name that book in specific as what
Right.
it is as guidance.
Right.
And Aqwam. That would have been the precise,
Right.
concise path
Right.
to that, I think.
Right. But there's other approaches to that also.
Well, if you're gonna be concise, that would be the first. If you're
I
gonna be
also
concise,
noticed that when you quoted, I think it was 238 or something,
Right.
you said, surely there will come from me a guidance.
Right.
And then you said, whoever follows my guidance.
Right.
So you went on to elaborate on the term a guidance
Right.
as if that could be any guidance,
Right.
which within the verse itself,
that's my
a
second question.
guidance is in fact my guidance, which is al-huda.
Right.
It is that.
Right.
It says, will come to me a guidance, whoever follows my guidance. that a guidance is my guidance, which is
Right.
al-huda.
Right.
So you took it as if that was a secular source of guidance,
Right.
and you elaborated when that's not what it is.
Okay. Okay.
You follow?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Again, when you said the Fatiha, you said the Fatiha says you make the request to guide us on the Salat al-Mustaqim. Where does it say guide on the Salat al-Mustaqim?
I think I misspoke. The one that comes after that, the 5:15 and 16 speaks
No,
that.
Fatiha. You said Fatiha.
The
You said-
Fatiha is right. I misspoke. I
misspoke.
stand corrected. Yes, I
What's the
stand
Fatiha
corrected.
say then?
It's
One
a
five.
it's a request for guidance. 1:5 here.
Yeah.
It says guide us on the straight path.
Where does it say
Salat
on? Where does it say on?
Upon the
straight
straight. What does it says? Hada ihdina sirata mustaqim.
path? Where does it say on?
It says guide us the right path. Then. That's
Yeah,
what it
but
says.
where's the word on? Is it guide on the right path or guide to the right path? Which one is it?
Well, to me, it was guide on the right
to
path.
you, I'm saying what the Quran.
Well, I'm not that familiar in Arabic grammar, so I couldn't tell you.
So in
I
other
couldn't tell you,
words,
it says-
talking about the source of guidance, you don't know where you want to be guided.
No, it says right here, the straight path, Sirat
No, I'm
al-Mustaqim.
saying is it on or to the straight path? Like if you read chapter 5.
Well, I'm
verse-
saying here, right here, 1:5, it says, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim.
Yeah, I'm asking you. It says guide us the straight path. Is it to it or on it?
I can't determine that from here.
Well, take a look at the one you quoted, 5:15, verse 16. Chapter 5, verse 16.
Right, well, that says,
What?
with.
It says what?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Well, tell me what you
One
want ready to tell me.
No, I'm not
Okay,
going to do
well,
that.
tell me when you're looking.
It says, with it, Allah guides, with the book, Allah guides such as follow His pleasure into the ways of peace, and brings them out of darkness into the light, and guides them to the right path.
What is the word for to the right path?
To is that it's D?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's either ala or ila. Ila, rather.
Ila.
To or
Yeah,
on.
it's Ila.
So that's to the right path.
To the right
So
path.
once you get to the right path, then what do you do?
Once you get to the
In
right
other words,
path,
I can draw. If I guide a horse to the water. Do I make him drink or just guide him to the water? Leave him there. Once you get to the right path, like brother, show me how to get to Midtown Tunnel, so I go. There's the highway. I guide you to the highway. Now, which way do you go and on it, and what do you do while you're on it, or how? How do you do when you're on it? Do you make any turns? You stay straight or what? I got you to the highway. Now, what do I do when I get to the highway? So, what does the Quran say about the difference
Chapter
between
3,
guiding
verse 7.
to and on?
what does he say between the guidance between to and on?
Yeah. If you know.
I don't know.
Okay, so maybe that might be something you might want to look at.
Okay.
To see.
But I look the question I was getting ready to say, the statement I was getting ready to say when you asked that question was 3:7. When you say that Allah do not let our hearts deviate.
No, I'm talking about when you ask for guidance, do you want to be guided? And when Allah says He guides you, does He guide you to the Sirat al-Mustaqim, Eli, or does He guide you on the Sirat al-Mustaqim?
And the term here
Ala?
is Ila.
Well, I'm saying, so once you get to it, then what about on it?
You have to stay on it.
But how do you get on it? You're just to it right now. You're not on it. You're just to it.
I don't know.
Oh, well, that's why I said something you got to look at now.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so when you're considering this source of guidance,
Right.
you have to understand what it is. You want to, who are you asking for the guidance? Where you want to be guided? If I ask you, what is the Sirat al-Mustaqim? You say, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. What is the Sirat al-Mustaqim in the Quran?
The Sirat al-Mustaqim, to my understanding.
According to the verses of the Quran. Not your understanding. If you understand it, where's the verse you understand it from?
Good point. I didn't look at it like that.
No, you
Good
gotta look
point.
at that.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
You gotta look at that.
Yeah.
When you're talking about the source of guidance, not just the source of guidance, where's it guiding you? You see? Where's it guiding you? Then you have to find out how you guide it, the whole business. So the source of guidance is just one aspect of guidance. The source, you see?
Right.
You see?
Say those questions again, Hamza, please.
They're on tape.
Okay.
So,
Take it out or something?
no. I'm just saying they're on tape.
Oh, okay.
So this is some other stuff that you have to look at when you're looking at the source of guidance. You see, because you started with chapter 20, verse 50,
Right.
where Abraham said, "My Lord is the one who creates everything, then guides it."
Right.
Okay? So he guides it.
Right.
So how does he guide it? You see? How does he guide it? What does he guide it? Where does he guide it to? You see, you have to consider all those things because people want to know. Then you went to 2:30 and so forth and so on. As the brother said, you jump past 1:5.
Right.
1:5 where the people asked for guidance. So then who were they asking? Who were they asking for the guidance? Because when I ask for guidance, that's going to tell me what the source of guidance is because who did I ask? And what did I ask for? Who did I ask? If I asked God and only Him, then the source of that guidance is God. And when I ask Him, am I going to depend on Him now only? Did I ask Him and somebody else? Or did I ask just Him? If I asked just Him and now He gave it to me, then that remains all the way through.
Right.
You follow me? So
Right.
you missed that point.
Right.
We said Ihdina Sirata Mustaqim. It's important to understand the Sirata Mustaqim. What is the Sirata Mustaqim? That without it, there's no paradise for you. You see?
Right.
If you're not, because why is the Sirata Mustaqim? You're reading it over and over and over again. We're
But
you guys the Sirata Mustaqim. Why is that Sirata Mustaqim so important? See, this has to be worked into your understanding of the source of guidance.
Right. Right. So I got a
So
lot.
maybe
I
you
got a
do
lot.
that, yeah, look at that. And
Yeah, I
then
got a
come
lot of
back,
work to
yeah.
do then. I
Yeah,
got a
come
lot of
back
work
and
to
look
do.
again.
I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come back and look again.
All right.
Yeah, look at that.
All right. I got a lot of work to do because it's just
Yeah.
like the points you brought up, the 1:5 Tariq
Yeah, I'm sorry.
and the 6:19, 17:9. I know them. I
See, you talked also about 10:35, God sending messengers.
Right.
Who was the first messenger? you
No,
sent?
that's not 10.
No, you said 10:35. When you was talking to 10:35, you talked about God. Allah sends guidance through messengers. That's what you said.
Right.
Allah sends guidance through messengers.
Right.
And then you went on and went into Muhammad and so forth and so on. But were there any messages who brought this Quran before Muhammad brought it?
Right. Right. So I was
Because that's important.
right.
Did a messenger bring the Quran before Muhammad brought the Quran?
Right. Exactly.
So you want to make it appear something new. Like
Because it's
came out of
important.
nowhere.
Because in chapter 4, verse 59, Muhammad is Allah says, "Oh, you believe, obey Allah, obey the messenger, and those in authority over you."
Yeah.
So does that go for Muhammad too? Is he included?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If he's a believer, he has to be included.
Exactly.
It says, "Oh, you believe, obey Allah, obey the messenger, and those in authority." So if Muhammad is a believer, that has to be for him too. The verse came to him. So who's the messenger he has to obey? Is Gabriel.
Right. Exactly.
Gabriel.
I don't know
You
what
see?
happened. I
Because
know
Gabriel is
it's-
telling him, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq."
Right.
If he says, "I'm not going to obey," then he's out of line. You see? So that stops them from saying that this obey Allah and obey the messenger and those authority means hadith and sunnah and all that. Because Muhammad had to obey the messenger himself. You see? Gabriel was the messenger.
Exactly.
So that was important to point
Right.
that out, you see?
Right. Okay.
And just in, see, I was looking, basically, I was hoping that you had a new approach, you see, to the source of guidance.
Right.
A new approach, because the verses you're given, maybe some of us are not that familiar with them,
Right.
but you are familiar with them. We're familiar with them. So I'm hoping that you're not just gonna, it says, when we come back for dinner next week, the brother got the noodles and he got the chicken, and he just flipped it over and sprinkled some sauce on it, and says, "Yeah, I got a nice new dinner for you." Says, "Wait a minute, this is the same thing you had from last week. You just put some brown sauce on the thing, man." It's the same soup warmed over. You know, that's the other thing. I'm saying now we were looking for, I come out tonight and say, yeah, we're going to get you something else to eat. Last week we had sauce on. It was the same thing you had. Chicken palm, yeah. Well, chicken palm with flour. You see, it's different. We changed it up. So I'm saying I was looking for something different, you see, and hoping that you would do something different. And since you didn't, I said, well, let me just do something different myself. Real quick. And which I did earlier tonight, but I'll do it again. A different approach that we haven't dealt before. A very simple approach in chapter 42, verse 51 and 52 and 53. Look, those 3 verses. Very deep, powerful verses for the source of guidance.
Yeah, I noticed that when you
I'm sorry, what was
were
this?
saying this stuff just earlier in the
51,
thing.
53.
That's why I wanted time, brother.
You don't need time. You had all the time you need. You had time.
No, I didn't have time. I wanted to research and put it together so I could put it together.
Yeah, but
and,
you had
not
the time.
feel
You
rushed.
left out 619, which you had time to do that. That was if you didn't do nothing else, 619 was powerful. The prophet is calling God to bear witness that he has on the Quran. You can't get nothing more powerful than that. That's the Akbar Shahada.
Well, I was going on the terms of the term.
And you left that out. You call it a sidebar.
Well, I was looking at the term in terms of tashreet, the
There's no
huda.
problem how you were looking. I'm just saying you had time. So now here, take this time.
Busted.
No, I'm not busting. I don't feel bad. I don't
Look
feel
at
bad.
this.
I don't
It's
feel
not about
bad.
the feeling bad or nothing like
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying, if you're gonna do what you gotta do, you gotta be careful and critique. That's
Right,
all.
yeah,
Do what you
exactly.
gotta do. That's what
Exactly.
we're doing here. You see, one of the things that we do here, and I meant to say that to Brother Derek and Brother Imran. You see, what we've been doing all these years is that not only do we study the Quran to improve our own lives and our own conduct among ourselves and our family and our friends and neighbors and so forth, but we also try to make ourselves sharp enough to defend against the Quran, to defend against falsehood. You see? We want to be defending against falsehood. So wherever we see falsehood come from, whatever spectrum it comes, we want to be able, when it talks about God, we feel that we have the ultimate source of knowledge regarding God. And if not, then we put it out there to be proven wrong. We feel that the Quran is the final and complete, perfect revelation from God, intact, you see? And that this message is for the whole of mankind. So if anybody, we don't say that other people don't have fragments of the truth, but we say that they've been called to the complete truth now. You see? And if anybody want to suggest anything other than that, we want to be able to defend against it. So part of what we sit here to do is make ourselves sharp as litigants, you see, to uphold this truth. You see? So this is why we do the critical thing that we do. You see? So now, what I said, well, look, let me just look at something new. Let me see if I can see something new. And as I was reading, I looked at this verse and I said, wow, look at that. This is something new right here in terms of the source of guidance that we haven't put in our program before. Just an argument by itself. Look what it says in chapter 42, starting at verse 54. It says, look, it is not...
No, not 50.
No, 51.
51, yeah. It is not, he says, vouchsafe. That means to grant or as a privilege. It's not granted to man. It's not granted to man that God should speak to him, to a man, to give him guidance. You say God gives you guidance. Well, it's not that he's going to speak to you to guide you except in these ways. You see? To a mortal. That Allah should speak to him except by revelation, or from behind a veil, or by sending a messenger by his permission, and revealing by his permission what he pleases. Surely he is high and wise. Now, so this is the way God is going to speak to you, to give you any guidance as a mortal, by these three means. You see? So now, regarding the person who brought this Quran, he tells you how he did
see
it.
where you're going.
You see?
Yeah.
He says, and thus we have revealed revealed to thee an inspired book. You see? A revealed book. By our command. We've revealed it to you by our command. You didn't know what the book was, and you didn't know what to trust. You had no knowledge. You were blind. You were astray. You see? So we chose this way to speak to you. You see, by sending a message to you and revealing to you an inspired book, we commanded that it be such. You see? Thou knowest not what the book was, nor what the man was, what faith was, what to trust. But we made it what? A light. We made this book a light. You see? Guiding thereby, guiding with the book. Whom he pleases out of our servants, and surely thou guidest to the Salat al-Mustaqim. You see?
Right.
You guide to the Salat al-Mustaqim. The next verse says, what is the Salat al-Mustaqim? The Salat of Allah. You see? Salat of Allah. The path of Allah. You see? That's what we got. The path of Allah. To whom belongs whatsoever is in the heavens and whatsoever in the earth. Now surely Allah does, to Allah does all affairs come. So look at that. Go right back to 1:5, where it's in the Salat al-Mustaqim, and here's the whole thing wrapped up right here. That God spoke, responded to you. You are mortal, asking God for guidance. He responded to you as a mortal and said, we sent you this inspired book. By his command, he commanded to take that book to them. You see, and that book is a light guiding to the Salat al-Mustaqim, which is the Salat of Allah. In a nutshell. You see?
Yes.
Now, maybe the next time, if I get a chance, I'll present to you some more argument about this Salat al-Mustaqim.
Nice.
Right.
Why is the Salat al-Mustaqim so important? You see? So important. And I got it here. That's Salat al-Mustaqim. Why is it so important, you see?
Hold on, let me say, hold on a minute. You just sold?
No, why is the Salat, this is a document. Why is the Salat al-Mustaqim so
Okay,
important?
gotcha.
It's very important. You have to understand what is about this Salat al-Mustaqim. Why do you want to be on, to and on? There's two different concepts you have to understand. To the Salat and on the Salat. So we can talk about that later.
Good deal.
But my point is that, you see, you don't want to just be sufficient with what is here, what you see right before you. You see, there's much more than what I see, you see, any one person sees.
Right.
And it's all you have to do if you go on and looking, if you come into the Quran and you're looking, things are going to, if you're sincere, things are going to come to you and you're going to look and see them for you to investigate them. You see? If you tapping into this book here like you do a regular book, it don't work like that. This is purported to be God's revelation to mankind. It's like you talking with God. This is the closest you're going to get. The closest you're going to get in a conversation with God is via Him talking to you through this book. You see, you're going to make a prayer and God's going to talk back to you. You see, He's talking to you in His book and also revealing something, inspiring you with something. But you can't get more better conversation to come into your system than through this revelation here. You see, not that you sit down and think it up and so forth. I mean, that happens. God inspires you one thing after the other. But there's a whole book of revelation here with ayats and signs and one thing after the other. So, there's many different approaches. It's just a matter, again, by thinking about, that's why when you were talking about doing this, I said, think about it. Think about what somebody could question you about.
Well, that's why I wanted more time, because I had put some ayahs down because I was trying.
It's not about more time.
What do you
If
mean
you
it's not?
if you just said 619, no, that would have been more powerful than everything you presented. If you brought the ayat 619, it would overrule everything that you put on that paper.
Well, right here. You
Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
That verse is more stronger than all the verses you presented.
Right, I was surprised.
That verse 619 says that the messenger, prophet, is calling Allah to bear witness to something he's getting ready to say. It's called, what is the Akbar Shahada?
Right.
What is the greatest testimony?
Right.
The testimony of Allah, you see? And the testimony, the witness of Allah, and the testimony I'm getting ready to give you right now, calling Allah to bear witness to it, that the Quran has been given to me, that with it alone I may warn you, and whomever it reaches forever. Can't get nothing better than that. Name the book, you name the scripture and all, the Quran.
Right.
You see, like in 47:2 it says, those who believe in that which is given to Muhammad surely is the truth from his Lord. But you don't know the name of it.
Right.
Here the name is given. The person himself is giving you the name.
Right.
That was your final step.
You see?
Yeah, like I said before, see, I have different things here for
But
the
you
source
have-
of
you
God.
have-
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, brother. He asked me to try to come with something new. So my approach was trying to put
Well,
together
that ain't
something new.
No,
Well, when I say
I
new-
didn't ask you to come with something new. You said you was going to come with something. I said be prepared. Think about what you bring so that nobody can't question it.
Right.
I said, make sure you put yourself in point.
You sure did.
I said, whether it be 1, 2, or 3 verses, that nobody
Because I
can
have
question
what you're
it.
saying right here.
You see?
Right here, you see it. I have it right here.
Can I correct my sources because I was kind of lost on 120 or 220.
120.
I didn't find what you were saying when I go back to.
120.
It says that some say Christians, some be Jews, and all that.
Right.
And Allah says His guidance. That is the guidance.
Right.
I have written the Jews will never. Okay, is that
Yeah, right.
Right,
The Jews
that's
never
it.
be pleased
That's
with
it.
And then what I needed on the second one, I kind of lost. Let me go back. Okay, I got this, and then I had 3-7, and I didn't
Right.
find what you're saying. It didn't.
Right. Right.
What do you have there?
No, the 3-7 is when the people after they receive the guidance, they're
Right,
asking
I mean,
Allah.
It says he is the one who has revealed to you the book, the Quran. Out of there are verses muhkamat.
It might be 3-8 then.
3-8?
3-8.
Okay. So
Right.
That's what.
Might be 3-8.
3-8, yeah.
Oh Lord, do not let our hearts deviate from our
Right,
heart.
exactly.
Oh.
You know what would help too if you know what I mean, I don't know if they'll agree, but maybe you want to get the same Quran that we're using right now, basically just to have I mean still use that,
Well,
but
his coming was almost right, but 2 of them I got lost, so I didn't understand why there's a
Right,
difference.
right. Because the verses shift based on
I
what
see.
Quran you're using.
I
you
see.
see what happened.
Well, okay, thank you. That showed me where I'm at.
If you
That showed me where I'm thinking.
I'll give you the Quran, ones that we use, so you
Not
can do the
thank you,
same
but you
page.
know
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Which one, is that the one you use?
I was just
Ali.
really trying.
This is the difference.
I was really
Ali
trying to
translation.
hook
Muhammad
up
Ali?
something
Yeah.
new, a new approach. I was really trying to hook up a new approach, and I've been running around, so I didn't really have time to really.
I just find it a lot easier to go
Screw it
on.
up.
No, that
Let's
don't.
go on.
That don't.
He's
that
online
don't
too, you know.
go right.
It's
You know,
online.
you are way too
Yes, I
advanced
see
in this
that.
to talk about. I don't
I
have
can
time to
maybe
sit
use
down
that,
some
yeah.
verses.
It's online. I use it all the time.
Yep, yep.
No, not like that, Hamza.
To me,
Yeah,
I'm
but
saying,
not like that
I-
though, Hamza. Not like that, where I didn't have time to sit down and put down the verses.
When
When you
have
said,
time to do what?
well,
Yeah,
sit
yeah,
down,
yeah,
put down
yeah,
the verses.
yeah.
Like when you say
What-
619, right? When you say
Yeah.
619 being the
Oh,
powerful
Please,
verse,
I'll
17:9,
the
right?
link.
When you
Online,
told
so
me
you
to
can
have a
get
new
it.
approach,
Shit
I
online.
understood
I
that.
have a new approach.
No, you said come with
Right.
something new. Or you come with, are you coming with something new? This is what
And
you
the
said to
Quran
me,
quotes.
Hamza. You said, are
Oh,
you
the
coming
purpose
with
quote.
something new?
New
Or are
is
we
new that we
doing
haven't
something
heard
that we,
before.
right?
Yeah.
Or are we doing something that we haven't heard before?
Yeah,
So now I'm just saying the way I understood it when we
Yeah.
were talking. My understanding of it was
Thank God I'm not the
Come-
focus tonight.
to come with a no, but this is what we do. This is what we do.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and it's good. This is why I said I didn't want it out there. This is why
Yeah.
you know. But anyway, I was trying to come with another. You got yours last week. I got mine this week. Right? You know what I'm saying?
You know how long I'm gonna hear this stuff.
Yeah, right.
That doesn't make sense.
You know what I mean?
I think Derek's smart.
That
This is on 50 years.
Now, not to say I didn't have time and.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the
This is
time,
something you can
Hamza.
do. You can just stand right up and you can stand right up and give the
Absolutely.
source of guidance right now. Boom, just stand
Right,
up.
done.
You don't need no notes or
Right.
nothing.
Done.
You see, and just rattle off 6 verses right off the top
Done.
of your head. The source of guidance.
Yeah,
Right,
but,
that's-
Hamza,
But the point
yes.
is, everyone to make sure nobody can't assail this verse.
Right,
If I just give you
right.
one, you ain't got nothing. You ain't gonna pick at nothing.
Right, but the understanding of me when we talk was like, come with an approach. That's the way I took it. Come with an approach
He
that's
said- he said-
different
he said
from the.
something right, a new
Just like
approach.
he did, excuse me,
Yeah.
just like he did right now with those verses.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I never
I was
presented that like that before.
exactly. So I was trying to come with something other than the 619, the 17:9, and stuff like that. I was earnestly looking.
But you came with the other verses that we had already. It wasn't nothing different. There was all the verses.
Those
you had,
verses were the
1735 and all of them. It's the same verses.
Right.
If you want to come with something other than the 16, don't come with something other than 638 and all of them. Come with something new. Why would you leave off 619 and come with the other ones?
Right.
When that's the pop one, and you called it a sidebar.
Right.
You yourself called that was a sidebar.
Right.
Sidebar, like, is a court terminology where the lawyers are standing up, running off at the mouth, and then they say something, and they need to approach the judge to say it in secrecy with the judge. Sidebar. And nobody is dictating that, taking that down. The jury can't hear and all that, and they're having a sidebar, and the judge might settle this different, then y'all go back. So we'll shut up, don't say it no more.
I didn't even use it. I didn't even know that word until
It's
you
a
explained
sidebar,
it.
yeah.
Well, see,
I'm not used to that word, sidebar.
I understood sidebar to be like a connection, something that you say
Or more of a
that
link.
would be a connection, connects
Well,
A
I call
to
that
B.
for myself.
Oh, okay,
I
correlate.
call it a sidebar. Remember the sidebar hardcore?
Sidebar hardcore, brother.
Yeah, that's what I call it myself. Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah, that I didn't know, but I learned
You know?
something too.
Yeah, well, okay.
Yeah, that's-
Hey, well, it is what it is. I put the effort in.
you can give me the garbage, whatever. I'll put it in. I'll take care of it.
No, this is good right here, brother. Don't
You
worry
sure?
about it. Yes,
I mean,
don't worry about it.
might as well.
No, don't worry about it.
What is
He's mad now.
I'm not
I'm
mad.
He's tired, you know. I can just
mad.
say.
No, he's tired. He's
I'm
tired.
not mad at all, brother.
But I think
Not
he
mad at all.
did clear this in the beginning that he's trying to refine. I have to say that.
Yeah.
And we all here learning. Obviously,
Brother,
okay,
you
pick
don't
the
have
words.
to. You don't have to.
No,
help
because
me
I can tell you that
I
you
know
can
what
put
this
a
is.
person on
I've
the
been with
spot
these guys
because
for years.
that's your field. You're going out traveling
That's
a lot
what
of
I
people.
do, yeah. I put people on the spot.
And then you can pick the
Yeah.
words, and then the person would be like,
And I don't
oh,
mind being put on the spot too.
yes,
I don't care.
correct.
Good luck with
Whatever
that.
I do to somebody else, I open myself to be done to me. I'm not one.
That's what I want to know. What an ascended duty is, Hamza.
And not only that,
An ascended duty.
I'll explain it to you when you elevate to the stage. You're not ready for that yet. You're not ready for that. That's a duty.
You ain't gonna
That's
whip with
one of
Hamza.
the duties
You better
that you're
what you
assigned.
do.
that's right.
That's one of
Never
the
gonna
duties
whip
that
with
you're
Hamza.
assigned.
No
That's
matter
right.
what.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it. Ascended duty is what you assign.
You gotta
It's one of
put
the assignments you have. Essentially. Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe this.
Oh, this is heavy stuff
It
here.
is.
boy.
It is definitely it is.
This is beautiful.
So for next meeting, what topic should
Not
we
next
have?
week, not
No.
the week after.
Oh, next meeting. Sorry, she
Yeah,
said.
we're gonna finish the second part of the Salat.
Second part as well.
Yeah, what Salat is.
So we're not putting up on YouTube. We're
No,
still
not
on.
yet. No, because what we're gonna do then after that, then we're gonna reframe something for you. YouTube.
Exactly.
We'll start with the source of guidance.
Exactly.
So-
And when we do Salat, we're gonna do it over for YouTube.
right.
Gotcha.
You see?
Should I bring someone in? Like I'm saying, my family member was talking. I said it's up to you, but the thing is, you say you're gonna start the second part on Salah. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking maybe I
If you
should.
want to bring somebody just to have a general discussion, we can postpone that and just talk to them generally. If you want to bring a family member in.
No, I think it would be better when we start from scratch because I want to actually go from the beginning. This way we're not jumping
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what exactly it is. So that would
Because
do
that
it.
person might die before
Right.
you might want them to hear something.
Right.
You never know when death's going to catch somebody.
Sure
So
does.
wow,
Never gonna win.
last week.
But going back, I still like the idea of 5. I really like the idea because that really
Yeah.
that we all follow and
Yeah.
brought up with. Okay, and if we can start, I understand we have to do the sell-off
Well,
part
the
too.
Shahada be first, and you talk
Yeah.
about the 5 pillars. The Shahada.
Whichever you like to start, yeah. But
Yeah, that's of the pillars, you see. But the
Right,
source
the
of guidance is always the most important.
Absolutely.
See?
Because that's where you're
Source
going
of
to get all your concepts, definitions
Yeah.
from.
So anybody who
and
need to
details.
hear something need to hear that the source of guidance is the Quran. Immediately they're gonna have to cut loose that other stuff that they're getting
Absolutely.
outside of the Quran. They have to get rid of it now.
Right.
You see, if I said, look, brother, where'd you get that stuff from? Yeah, well, that's not part of what's on this charter here. Where'd you bring that stuff now? It says on the itinerary for the bring on the plane. Okay, 2 coats, 1 sneakers, 1 boo. So what you got there? No, you can't bring that. That's not on the manifest. Get rid of that. Get rid of
Derek
that.
or Derek, can I borrow your notes? I just want to copy it in the beginning because I
Oh,
wasn't.
you better get it. I didn't.
No, in the beginning when we were going over.
I hardly took anything today.
Anything that you make, you guys will write it down. I know.
Yeah, no,
I just want to
but
make copy and put it in my
Right.
notes.
So he did some very detailed stuff here.
Do you think?
Yeah, man.
I'm just
Let
gonna
me
copy
see
and give it back
Let
to
me
you.
see what I got here for you. I'll share with you. And let me see what it is here. You see, I kind of made like a
See, now
little,
you'll bust him. See that he wasn't really taking no
little
notes.
score here. See,
Is that it?
just a little, you know. I'll take really good notes, brother.
Now he was just popping games. Just
I
said,
know.
wow. He
I
thought you
didn't
was
know.
writing notes. Look,
I
you got 1 page, you got about 3 notes on there.
Right.
Don't forget
For the whole
the
3 hour
notes are
lecture.
short because
Right.
half of it was the
What you
discussion.
were saying, we already knew.
That's what I say. You see how I write the notes?
Our reiteration.
Yeah,
Right.
Let me just
Right.
make a copy. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Go ahead.
You better get out of here.
Let me just make a copy.
No,
You did good,
brother, I'm not worried about that.
See, my thing was this, brother, because
You now started all he was quiet just then. He was sitting back. Now it's all over again now, man.
my
Alright,
thing was like
that's
this,
not mine,
right?
sir.
My thing was like this. You know, I had talked to Hamza previously, and I talked to this brother. So we had already agreed before, when I talked to you before this, we already knew we went through the 619 and all that
Right, that's why
stuff. We
nobody.
already went
why
through
you
that.
do it
No, but you
know-
see it's in my notes.
You
and all
knew
that.
he was gonna hit you with that.
I
You
know,
knew
but
he was
what I'm saying
hit
to
you
you
with that.
is after that, after I talked to you,
Yeah.
I spoke to him. He said, "Are you gonna try to come with something new, or you gonna try to rehash the old stuff?"
Right.
So my thing was trying to come with
I know what
something
you did.
new. You know, I tried. You feel
The
what I'm saying?
idea
I'm not.
is-
I wanted more time
You
because I didn't really want to do it
Right,
tonight.
even-
And I told him, but you know how I'm. He tried to put you on so
No,
that you
you know he's
do.
gonna do that.
Right, so I really
See,
wasn't
even when Hamza bought
unprepared.
this
I really
tonight-
didn't. I broke down a lot of stuff, but I didn't really make a good
My
cheer
question to you is, if you felt you were a little unprepared, why did you go do this?
because
That's
I
a
can
good-
be corrected and get the right way.
Oh, okay. So
Good
you be a sacrifice then. You be a sacrifice.
Yeah. You know, it's like that forced sacrifice
Let me
stuff.
see.
You see, you throw it out
And,
there.
and Hamza was nice tonight with
Yeah,
this.
he was nice.
He was nice
He
with
could have
this
beat
boy
me up with
at
that.
the house with this
Yeah,
boy.
he could have beat me up with that.
Boy, you ready to cry,
beat me up.
man, all kind of stuff, man.
He could have
You
beat
know?
me up. Like he don't.
He was
Like he don't.
boy,
Like he don't.
man.
Well, Hamza, this is foolishness. I think you should have never did this. So I mean, it's both of us. But I was really trying to come with something different.
Okay, I hope you can read that, brother. I mean, it's
That's fine.
it was
Came
how
off when I
hip
was
to that.
actually turning
It
it.
was like
It's perfectly fine. Do you have a stapler?
I do have a signal.
Okay.
But though Hamza had given us just these ayats here, I can't read his mind, but I think
Thank
he
you
would
very
have
much.
ended with 619 and 1719 to identify the book that's even been referred to in 41. These verses here. He's
No,
something.
definitely.
Well, I knew
Right.
when he came
Gotta end
when he
with that.
came with these verses here. When he was saying these verses, I think he was talking to Imran when he was saying these verses. When he was
gonna-
explaining them,
he was gonna end with
I
that.
saw
About
that.
can a mortal, when I was
Right.
talking about can a mortal ascend to paradise?
Right.
Right.
When he
Right.
gave these verses like that, I already looked at it as the source of guidance. You could be used for the source of guidance, you know. But I was trying to come with something new. I had a lot of ayats. I just put the few there
But
because
that's
really,
nothing new. You keep saying something new. That's not new.
I know it's not new, but
About a
in,
new arrangement.
right.
Yeah,
If you
new
want to say a
arrangement.
new arrangement, no.
Yeah.
I was trying to come from 2050, you know,
That's not
and,
new. We
and show
had that
show
already.
exactly show from the creation. But in the midst of that,
What
I
new
was
ayat did you bring tonight that we never heard?
752.
752. What
Yes.
was it? What did it say?
You got your
That was about the messages, right?
no.
I can look it up. So
No, I got it right here.
That the messenger.
I got it right here, bro.
Let's see what that said. This is a new verse.
Or that the messengers have brought something, and something to do with messengers, right?
Yeah. No.
I'm wrong. Okay.
I don't know if you're wrong, but let me just read the Quran. Let's see if we both.
want me to read it?
Yeah.
No, I got it right here, bro.
Okay. One second.
Because you might have a different translation.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Show you.
No, that makes.
Oh, excuse me. And secondly, we have brought them a book which we make clear with knowledge, a guidance and a mercy for people who believe.
Yeah, but what book is that?
Yeah,
talking
But
about?
I was gonna, but I
Yeah, so
did.
that shouldn't put
Right
that
after
in there.
this would have been
No, then
619.
you don't
That
want to
was
put that in
vague.
there.
That
I don't
was
need that
vague.
in there.
Right. They didn't need that.
That ain't got nothing to do with
Okay,
nothing.
no problem.
Right.
No problem. I was trying to bring something new. That's it. That's it. Case closed. I tried, failed, I learned.
Well, not that you
That's
failed.
what it is.
Well, if you learn, you didn't fail.
That's what it is.
So should I stop this?
Yeah, you
Okay.
Yeah.
You should have stopped it a long time ago.
No, it's fine. Then I wanted to get it. That's great. You know.
You should have stopped it a long time ago. As soon as Hamza said, no, brother.
I want to copy that too next time. 'Cause I want to put it up on YouTube.
As soon as it was time for critique, question, and answer, you turned that right off.
Immediately.
Yeah, this shit.
No, I really actually, learned some things and I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I like that stimulation of mind picking it up because it actually strives you to pick up more stuff
Yeah.
and ponder upon it. Okay, and it's good that we actually are locked into the Quran and trying to stand from it. Okay,
Yeah.
and sometimes I feel again, it's my understanding that it's a tough okay, with all things, and I actually try to grasp as much as I can, okay. And again, it's a process. I think it's like going back to the school. You don't start from saying 5th grade or 6th grade. You gotta start from the 1st grade, okay? And you have a syllabus and you pick slow by slow. So I think as time moves on, we will slowly grasp. I know both of you have been here for a while, so I would say that Derek, I think you started, and definitely me, okay? So it's just the idea that I'm giving myself to grasp slowly, okay? So
So
it's
usually when you go back to school, they give you a test to see where you're at.
yeah,
And
yeah.
they put they might say.
I think you already did that.
You're 4th grade.
I think you already did that.
No, not really, not really, because I feel that I could have did much better than this if I would have went somewhere different.
Okay, gotcha. But definitely that's what it was.
I don't feel.
Coulda, woulda,
I don't
shoulda.
feel-
You remember them guys, right? I used to hang out with them. Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda, woulda,
Yeah, we
shoulda.
went to school together.
And well enough. You know what I mean? Well enough.
Who's on first and who's on second? You remember them, right?
Well enough alone.
Yeah, right. Who's on first and who's on second? We used to hang out with
These
them
two
too.
funny cats, man.
You know
I'll
what I'm
tell you.
saying, boy?
These
Come
two
on.
funny cats, man.
Derek, you bringing your wife next time?
Yes.
Okay, that's
God
great.
willing, she should be ready to go.
I didn't have
Good,
enough
good,
time.
good.
My
That's
boss
great.
and shit like that.
We're good.
I had to let you go, guys, because it's really nice. I enjoy that. That's really
You
nice.
guys
You know?
enjoyed you.
I feel like going all night.
And stuff,
You know? I think of Brother Shafiq. He has to go to work,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the problem.
and Hamza, he's gonna have lots of people asking him questions.
Right.
And Brother Tariq and Derek, he's got to go all the way back to New Jersey.
I can stay here. You can got me home later on.
Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. All right.